All right. Hello and welcome to Damn Pass Podcast, episode 480. That's not right. 489. Got the wrong number in there. 489. I'm your host, Ryan Johnson. Matt Lawrence is here.
I am.
Tim is back.
I'm back. I'm not dead.
In a
You
big
missed
way.
last week, right? You were gone last week?
Last week, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So we got a lot to get into. Both had or there was both the Xbox Games Showcase and the Ubisoft Forward, among other things. There was like a Dragon Age little announcement there. But before we get into all that crazy news, Matt, you have a sad fact. Video game sad fact.
Video game sad fact.
Well,
Yeah.
so the actual topic isn't sad, but it's like something terrible happens in it.
Okay.
Well, it's terrible for people that are nostalgic. Like
This,
a
is,
lot,
this is like Dark Side of the Ring.
no, it's not that sad. Holy crap!
Your favorite wrestler is, but the true dark underbelly.
I distinctly remember watching Dark Side of the Ring, and I was watching it, sort of nightly here and there, not necessarily every night. And I remember distinctly being like, every night I'm watching this, and I'm just like sad, like I'm going to bed just upset, like I don't like it. And I got to this episode where like 3 or 4 people in a family killed themselves, and I was like, I'm done. I can't watch this anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why am I watching this going to bed?
Mm-hmm.
And then we had someone in a PlayStation party bring that episode up, and I was like, I can't go back. Like I just like I've been there, I've experienced it, and I was sad, so I'm out. Maybe next season though. Anyway,
They keep pulling me back in.
just when I thought I was out, they pull me back in. The only good thing that came out of The Godfather 3. There's my fun fact.
I think everyone knows that one, Matt.
Yeah, actually, but no. So there's this fun fact is about the Bit Wars. So the Bit Wars is a pretty well-known era. The phrase itself is like kind of coined by the community, kind of coined by for many people, actually by the Angry Video Game Nerd, AVGN, because he had like he's mentioned it in his videos and stuff, and he had a pretty funny little skit of like the different bits, and he's like transforming through the ages, and then he turned into like a Game and Watch, like whatever that like e-ink display screen is. So that's pretty funny. I forgot all about that scene until I started researching for this episode. But the Bit Wars was an era in console technology where it was like around, say, like mid 90s to the mid 1980s to around like the mid 1990s. So approximately 10 years. There's no exact sort of like, okay, the war is off day or anything like that. But this era represents a rapidly sort of technology growth and development period. And also with that, aggressive marketing campaigns to go hand in hand with it. So the bits basically would be like, yo, we got this many bits, that many bits. I got 8-bit, 16-bit, 32-bit. I got 64 bits. And around 64 bits is when things started falling apart. And that's part of the sadness. And I'll get into that in a second here. But what are these bits? So we've all heard of bits before. We still hear about them on computers. So the bits refer to the word size that the console's CPU or central processing unit could handle in a single operation. Meaning basically, what could the console's brain do in one, how many bits could it process in one single operation? So rather simply, but for example, an 8-bit console could process 8 bits of data at once. So then by that, like affiliation, if you went from 8 to 16, it's like, whoa, like the console's power has significantly increased. And obviously we're going to be able to do more with it, right? We're going to have more complex games. Things are going to look better. Graphics are going to be better, those type of things. Now, these wars, like I said, went on for about 10 years. And the unofficial / official end to these wars came about because of Atari, really sadly. So Atari wanted to come out ahead and say, we have sort of the most bits in a way. And so they released this console that just did horribly, called the Atari Jaguar. And the Atari Jaguar advertised like a whopping 64 bits way back on its release date in 1993. Now, you might be like, well, hey, like, why was this thing, why did this thing not do too well? Well, in terms of the sort of marketing angle, because I'll get into the technicals of it in a little bit, this thing basically just had poor marketing. It had ineffective marketing, and it really failed to communicate the advantages to the audience that it was trying to get to actually purchase this thing. there was a lack of quality games, and that will touch on it a little bit because that had a lot to do with the technical side of things. It was also extremely expensive, so the console's price made it like, but like the like what would you say? It's like you're saying, hey, I have this like absolutely like monolith device, come and buy it, but you have that effect of like today where it's like, hey, like come and buy this amazing cell phone I have, but it has no apps. Right. So lack of quality games, you have this high price point, but it's like kind of worth it. Right. It's like that weird, like, hey, buy this thing. It's expensive, but it's actually like good. It's actually computationally advanced for this period. And the hardware, and this is going to touch on the technical side a little bit, but the hardware was really difficult for developers to actually create games for. So even if somebody said, like a developer said, you know what, I want to get into this 64-bit world, let's make a game for this, like, Atari Jaguar, or maybe they're just a fan of Atari because they were obviously popular for a great number of years. Unfortunately, it just didn't make sense for them to do so because it was just difficult to actually make things for the Atari Jaguar. There was also a lot of very fierce competition at this point. So like I said, the Atari Jaguar released in 1993, and it sort of ended these bit wars. And many people already had allegiances to Sega, to Nintendo, PlayStation. PlayStation was on the horizon at this point. So it's sort of like, okay, like, this is starting to get a little bit, people are getting their allegiances. It's sort of like people that love Xbox or love PlayStation or love PC, for example, in the modern age. And also they had a very small amount of third-party game support. So it was difficult to get into. Not many people were making games for it, like a big mess in terms of the games. And also, and this was a shocking one for me, is that there were consoles already that were starting to get online capabilities. So the Sega Saturn actually had an accessory called the Sega Netlink that allowed it to actually access the internet. And the 3DO also released the 3DO interactive multiplayer console that was literally for multiplayer gaming. This was all news to me.
Yeah,
Now,
I thought the first one that had really like internet connectivity that I can remember was the PS2, but that's like way before that.
Yeah, and well, for me, the one I remember was the Dreamcast because it has a modem in the back.
Oh, true. Yeah.
Which is crazy. Actually, funny enough, you can still, I don't know if it's the official servers, I think it's fan-made servers. You could still access like the web browser and stuff on the Dreamcast. Somebody like redid the servers. You could still like, whatever, dial into it effectively and like actually connect.
That's
like
awesome.
It's 1990 or whatever.
Keeping it alive. I didn't know anybody who had a Dreamcast at the time, so that's like totally foreign to me. But yeah, I forgot it had that.
The Dreamcast, like I have one now, but like I bought it like years and years after it came out. Yeah. And like I used to love the Dreamcast, but like it I could definitely see it being a problem when it came out. Like there just wasn't that many games type of thing. It was like a little bit, it wasn't as, let's say, going toward the same modern gaming sort of era that we have now, like the PlayStation was. Like the PlayStation,
it was kind of gimmicky, like the Nintendo stuff.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Like it just felt like it wasn't trying to, like, I don't know, push gaming forward or something.
Trying to compete. It was just trying to do like its own thing.
Well, do you remember, Tim, you and I had found out, because I have a couple of those TPUs, which are the memory cards.
Yeah.
And we were like, why the hell are there buttons on these TPUs? And it's like, oh, if you took your TPU out of your controller, there's a little screen in those buttons, and you could actually, for some games, play a game on your TPU.
Yeah, yep.
Like, and then you could go to your friend's house and like plug your TPU into their console, and then you'd actually have, like, you could, play with your save files and maybe even have progressed a bit if you played on the TPU itself.
Yep.
So that's pretty cool. But like, it's just sort of, again, like you said, Tim, it's like, it's kind of like the Wii in that, where it's like the Wii's cool and whatever, but that wasn't where gaming was kind of like leaning towards. At least not like all the gamers weren't going toward that. Or the Kinect is a good example. Kinect is a cool idea, but there's a reason why it's no longer around as much. Now the
sorry. If you have more, go ahead. I'll bring up my points at the end.
Okay, sure. Yeah. So the Jaguar was difficult to develop for, like I mentioned, and this was due to a multi-chip architecture. And it was a complex multi-chip architecture that made game development challenging just in general. But this didn't account for the fact that there were several actual hardware bugs that could hurt software development as well. And I don't know of any specific hardware bugs in this thing, but I've dealt with hardware bugs before, and specifically in college, where it'll be something like, hey, like if I type in this command, this one pin should go high, and like if there's an LED there, it'll turn that LED on, and it just won't do it. And it's like, oh, it's because there's actually bugs in this little chip's software. Like it's a pain in the ass or firmware. There were poor development tools for this thing. They were not user friendly. They lacked a lot of features, and they were they didn't allow you to easily sort of exploit the Jaguar's capabilities. So this led to a lot of games that came out not actually utilizing all of the power of the Atari Jaguar, which kind of defeats the purpose of saying like, hey, come buy this expensive thing that's really powerful. And also there was a distinct lack of documentation, something that plagues us to this day with many with many pieces of software. Adequate documentation was not available, so developers would just sort of have to like trial and error or figure things out. And of course, they wouldn't be able to take advantage of little niche things that the Jaguar may or may not have been capable of. Now, I just have a brief list here of the sort of mainline bit war consoles because there were some other ones. The first one is the NES. That's 8-bit. Sega Genesis, 16-bit. SNES, 16-bit. Now, here's something interesting. So, like I said, the Atari Jaguar came out in 1993. The PlayStation, 32-bit. So half the bits of the Atari Jaguar, and the PlayStation came out in 1995. The Sega Saturn also came out around the same time, I believe. That's a 32-bit. So those two are in the 32-bit era. And then the N64, of course, N64 stands for 64 bits. And that came out in 1996. So we have like a weird sort of like this like weird bit war, right? Where it's like, hey, we were the first to 64-bit, but that isn't all that matters when making games, when getting something to market. And so it's like a big mess. And that's it. That's my fun facts.
Sad fact.
Matt's
the sad history of
facts.
the Atari Jaguar.
Yeah,
it's funny. I think because you mentioned those AVGN videos, I didn't know. Like I watched a lot of AVGN back in his like early days, and I didn't even know a lot of those consoles like even existed until I watched his videos. Like I would never have known what the Jaguar was unless I watched his stuff. Pretty much.
What I like about that era, and it's weird, is that it's documented well, or so we think, right? Or it's like in our face, like we're all aware of the NES and the SNES and those type of things.
Yeah.
So we just think like that's it. But like it's like what you just said, Tim. It's like Atari Jaguar was, a console that had lots of ads, lots of advertising behind it. I know, and it wasn't, none of the Jaguar's execution was amazing, but it had, I'm sure TV ads, paper ads, magazine ads. And it's like, if no one writes that stuff on the internet, if it's not popular enough, like the NES, SNES, etc., then it just goes into obscurity. Like it's just gone.
If anyone's wondering, we're still on 64-bit consoles. Like that is like the peak, and I don't think we're ever gonna see like 128-bit because there's so many. I guess I'm no computer engineer, but there's so many possibilities. I guess with 64 that it's virtually infinite, and so we don't need any higher bit computers. Something to that effect. Because like PCs are now 64-bit, and that's just that will be it until we die, I think.
Because it's only like one, like it can only do like it's reading that word, right? It's reading that
something
word.
Something is multiplied out though, right? Again, I have no idea what I'm talking about. This is just the loose knowledge I picked up. Something is multiplied every time you increase or every time you double the bits. And so like with 64-bit, you have like billions or trillions or whatever the number is of what are those, whatever kind of computer transactions going on. Does that sound anything that's right?
Well, like you're saying, it'd be like, I mean, this is really, really rough, but it'd be like saying if you take like bits and change them into like English language words.
Yeah.
It'd be like, okay, you can only have, 8 words in a sentence. How complex can that sentence be versus a one with 64 English words in it, or even 32 or 16? Like it gets like more and more. That's a really loose analogy, but I think it is a decent way to illustrate that.
Early smartphones too were also 32-bit. It was only like 5 years ago that they switched to 64-bit, and I remember people even saying then, because I think Apple was like the first like big phone company to do it, and everyone's like, you don't need 64 bits on a phone. Why would you need 64 bits on a phone? And then next year, all the other phone companies did 64-bit, and that's just where we've been at for the rest of the phone industry.
Was there any like specific evolution? Like, did anything get like major upgrade with the 64-bit?
The main thing I remember hearing about was you could have more RAM with 64-bit.
Yeah, that's right. I want to say the max with 32 is 4 gigabytes. That's on PC though.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm pretty sure from back from the IT days. It's a long time ago.
Yeah. I'm looking at the console. I'm not. It looks kind of weird too. It's not a very good looking console. The Jaguar.
Well, the controller is ridiculous. The controller with that like
Yeah.
the calculator kind of
There's like a
keypad in the
there's
middle.
like a number pad on it.
It's ridiculous.
It's really ridiculous. Cartridge based though, right? Yeah. I guess that would that be too early? That'd be too early for CDs, right?
I don't know. I don't
93?
remember when the Sega CD came out.
Let's
It,
find
it's
out.
close. It's close though because the PlayStation, 2 years later approximately, and that thing had CDs.
I was gonna
Oh,
say, is the
Sega CD was
PS1
91 in Japan.
before the N64?
Yes. So the PlayStation was released in '95, and the N64 is '96.
Okay, because the N64 did have a Japan only disk drive as well.
Oh.
Ah.
The N64 DD.
What's crazy is before I researched this, I had no idea that N64 stood for that. I
Oh,
just
really?
Oh,
never really
really?
like paid attention to it because I thought the bit wars had ended well before even the PlayStation. It's easy to forget that the PlayStation, which I acknowledge the original PlayStation is old, but I always kind of thought that like the original PlayStation is the beginning of like the modern era, but it's pretty early. Like
The
it's
original
not a
PS1.
like it's pretty wild actually.
It's pretty old. It's pretty old.
It's weird to name your console though after that. Like I imagine that's only because of the Bit Wars that they would name their console N64 to be like, we have 64 bits, you know.
Yeah.
But what's weird about that is like today that'd be like calling the PS5, like I looked it up, the PlayStation 10.28 teraflops. You know what I mean? Like it's just a bizarre thing to kind of put on your name. And
It's just
teraflops kind of
playing.
is I guess the new Bit Wars. It's not as extreme maybe, but I know for both the PS4 and the PS5 generations, they compared teraflops with the Xbox console.
Yeah, it's just playing into the marketing, right? The trends and stuff.
Yeah, but teraflops is not reflective of actual game
Yeah.
performance. It's a benchmark to use, but it's not just because one's higher than the other doesn't mean it's better.
Yeah, because that's going to rely on like how well the game actually uses its hardware, right? It's the highest potential, but it's not a real measurement of
Yeah,
anything.
and there's other like considerations like both your system RAM and your video RAM, all that can change performance, right? So
Well, as we saw with the Jaguar too, I mean, having bad documentation, not having third-party developers on board, like there's a lot of marketing things that come into play too, right? And
yeah,
like, I mean, the PlayStation comes out, sure, it's disc-based, so that's, some sort of technology change certainly. But it's quote unquote only 32 bits. It's 2 years after this, Jaguar, the 64-bit console, and it, blew it out of the water, realistically. I don't know. I'd love to know I mean, it'd be easy enough to look up, but I wonder what the Dreamcast was. If that was like 32 or 64. I'm gonna guess it was. I'm
I
willing to
would guess
guess it was.
32.
That's what I'm thinking too.
Yeah. All right. Well, while Matt looks that up, are you looking that up?
Yeah. It is a so this is what the Dreamcast says according to Wikipedia. Its main CPU is a two-way 360 MIPS, Jesus, superscalar Hitachi SH-4 32-bit RISC, clocked at, hang on, what? 200 megahertz, baby, and 8 kilobytes instruction cache, 16 kilobyte data cache, 128 bits graphics oriented floating point unit delivering 1.4 G flops. Gigaflops.
I like how 200 megahertz now is like what you could squeeze out by just getting a better cooler. You know what I
Man,
mean?
my first PC had a 566 megahertz processor and a 10 gig hard drive.
God damn. All right. Thank you, Matt. That was awesome.
Well, thank you,
You're picking,
Ryan.
you're picking a lot of good, fun and sad facts.
Oh.
Wait, which other ones would sad?
Well, this is the first sad one we've had, I guess.
Oh, okay.
There was
Although,
that one
I
week where
guess
we talked about all those wrestlers. No, we didn't. But
in the same vein, though, if you're saying it's sad just because it was the kind of the death of Atari, I mean, we did the other piece on all the old consoles, the early '70s consoles that died off, that are no longer with us anyway. So,
the sort of like pioneering technologies.
I guess this is kind of the same situation. This always happens. The pioneering company or feature never takes off for that company. Because if they were the first to do a 64-bit home console and it killed them, but then the N64 comes out and it's one of the most beloved consoles, isn't that bizarre? It's just they made mistakes somehow. Just having the
Yeah, but
tech wasn't enough.
you're comparing Atari to Nintendo. Like,
Well, Atari was there first, though. You would think that they would have more experience making home consoles in getting developers to make games for their console.
Yeah, but just
You
because you're
know,
there first doesn't mean you're the best at it.
no, but you should have experience. Someone who has no experience shouldn't be able to come in and just like kick your ass, but that's what happens all the time.
Yep.
I also find that the pioneers usually don't make the technology that they're,
Mm,
creating
hmm
for the same reason. Like I don't know if that holds true with Atari, but I find that like a BlackBerry is a great example where BlackBerry was very business based, like all about business, 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 business. And then the consumers come in and like sure they went consumer for a while because the consumers are like we want internet and we want keypads at the time anyway, and we want all these things. We want trackballs and trackpads and all this stuff, and like that's what we want because we don't just want these flip phones with like little shisty displays that can't even like barely show pictures. So we want like something better, and that's what they had. But then like the business roots, like it held them back because like someone else shows up and goes, well, I can make that for the general public,
hmm
and then that's like a totally different mantra or idea.
You have to train yourself not to be afraid of, abandoning your business's core, you know, if you want to keep surviving.
Easier said than done when the company's massive though. Like could you imagine being like, okay,
No,
everybody,
yes.
we're
Yeah.
pivoting hard. It's like what does that mean? We have one of our 100 teams has 100 people in it. It's like what
hmm
does that mean? Like what are we going to do?
But yes, I know I'm the Apple fanboy, but and shareholder.
Damn it.
Disclaimer.
But like that's what Apple's kind of always been good at is that they don't actually care if a new product they have cannibalizes an old product. Whereas another company would be like scared to have like their best selling, like let's take for example the iPod, which basically made Apple what it is today, like brought them out of bankruptcy. Um, Most companies would be afraid of doing anything to put that at risk, right? But then they made the iPhone and then didn't care about the iPod sales going down because the iPhone was a replacement of the iPod, And so I think Apple's kind of been, I guess, smart in that sense of just not actually caring about keeping those products alive, you know.
They kind of see it as like a thing where it's like, does I'm just making this up, but it's like, does the iPad matter? Like the very first iPad, does that matter in 2 years? No.
hmm
Well, we're already 8 months in. If we, cannibalize that now, what did it have? Another 4 good months. But if we, get the next product out, whether it's the iPad 2 or, fuck knows whatever else. Again, I'm just making this up.
Yeah.
But it's like if that next product that's going to cannibalize it, that thing might have a 3 year run. So,
hmm
screw the 4 months. Let's get that 3 years going.
Yeah. And I mean, a lot of people think Apple's an innovator, but I mean, they'd probably call themselves that. But if you actually look at the reality, they're not ever really first in any category.
No, never
So
really.
they don't fall into that trap of trying to rush to market with something that's not fully fleshed out and then having it just fail or destroy your whole company. They usually wait to see how things pan out before entering the market.
Yeah.
That's why Apple doesn't have a flip phone right now. They're still waiting to see how people are jiving with it or, trying to figure out some way to make it unique and make it sell. Anyway. All right. Let's move on to the Xbox showcase. Tim, you saw some of it. Were you just catching up on trailers and stuff?
Yeah, yeah.
Matt, you watched it.
Yep.
What was give me your overall initial thoughts?
Really, really fucking good. I mean, just straight
Yeah.
up. I mean, really surprised. To be honest, I kind of turned it on and wasn't really paying attention too much. Like I was just sort of listening and then, kind of messing around on my phone. I was actually doing some work on my laptop as well. And it got like so good by about a third into it that I was like, okay, I'm gonna put some shit down and actually watch this.
Oh wow.
And like, man, like I'm pretty pumped. Like it's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
But man, actually, what's hilarious is the State of Decay 3 trailer. I'm excited that it's there and everything, but because we still, as far as I know, do not have a date for this thing that's going to come out. That was the thing that made me want to just like continue working. I was like, oh, we're just going to get a bunch of trailers again, and I
Mhm.
don't want to rush anybody, but it's like, holy crap! Like, how long are you guys going to be working on State of Decay? And how long are you going to be working on all these other titles? Like, are we going to have another dry year at Xbox, basically?
Yeah.
And that's just not the case. Like 2024, 2025 is looking to be pretty crazy.
However, that State of Decay trailer was another CG trailer. We still have not seen gameplay. And to quote Tim Spence, no gameplay, no hype.
That's right.
So
You got it right.
that's a little disappointing to not have seen gameplay yet.
And honestly, I mean, maybe they're doing something completely different, but State of Decay 2 was pretty simple. Like, I don't know if you guys agree with that, but I think it was pretty simple concept and it just had cool maps, cool ideas, but a lot of the mechanics were rather shallow. maybe what they're building is not as shallow and is not as simple. But I feel like if it's anything like State of Decay 2 in its simplicity, that it really should not have taken this long.
Well, we don't know until we see it,
Right,
you know,
right. I'm speculating, obviously, like completely,
or
but
until they even talk about it. I don't even know if they've talked about it much. But before we get ahead of ourselves here, let's just go through the conference. Obviously, they started off with Call of Duty Black Ops 6. They made note, I think, of that this is the first time that Call of Duty appeared on an Xbox stage in 10 years. So I guess since the start of the PS4 era, because prior to that, the whole 360 area was pretty much Call of Duty and Xbox were like kind of married to each other. It
yep.
felt like they had like the deals where they were getting the maps beforehand, and then I guess maybe Sony offered up some more money, or I don't know what happened there, but it switched to PlayStation. Um, I thought a really nice thing, like Xbox has been making a lot of consumer friendly choices recently, and they made note of on this one that Call of Duty is now going to launch like parity across all platforms. So you're not going to have exclusive DLC for 6 months on Xbox. Everything is launching the same day on all platforms, including betas. So that's pretty great to hear if you're a big COD fan. But Black Ops 6 is looking pretty awesome.
That just
It
sounds
might
like
get
we've
me
had
back
too
into
much
it.
COD.
Yeah,
Black Ops 6, like
yeah.
having six in your like game title just sounds like it's been around for too
I
long.
don't even remember four. When did Black Ops 4 come out?
Black
Oh,
Ops 4 is the
was it
one
that
that
ugly
introduced,
logo?
wasn't it the one that introduced Warzone? Or
Is
was
that
that
what it
Black Ops,
was?
or was that Black Ops 3? Where it wasn't Warzone, it was Battle Royale.
So Black Ops 3 was online only. Is that right? Was that the
Okay,
one that
so
was online only?
the yes. The one that has the Battle Royale, I believe, is the one that's online only.
Was that 4? See, I don't remember 4. Like 4 does not even exist in my mind. So anyway, it's looking good though.
I literally had to look it up. No, so Black Ops 4 is the one I'm talking about. Black Ops 4 is the one that has
The ugly
the
logo.
it has the ugly logo. It had the cut multiplayer campaign thing. So it didn't have a campaign. And it had the what do you call it? It had Battle Royale, but it was not Warzone. It was like the precursor to Warzone.
I do not. Okay, so then I don't remember Call of Black Ops 3 then. That's the one I don't remember.
I couldn't help you with Black Ops 3. I have
Yeah.
no idea what the hell Black Ops 3 looks like.
Unless it's the one with Troy Baker.
Wait, Black Ops 3 is the one I believe that we got for free one year.
Yeah, that sounds right.
And I remember like some dude was like, I saw somebody coming at me online. I was like, oh fuck, there he is. And he like, I heard him like jumping and he like disappeared into like this top floor of a building. I was like, what is he doing? And I could hear him like sliding around and parkouring and everything. He popped up behind me and shot me in the back of the head. And I was like, okay, like I'm too old for this shit. I can't do this. Like,
Yeah. So they also had that big 25-minute video going into a deeper dive into Black Ops 6 at the end of the conference, kind of like what they did with Starfield last year. But yeah, we won't cover that kind of stuff. But it does look cool. They added a lot of features where people can be more mobile, and that's just going to get me killed quicker. So it's probably going to be a disaster, but looks fun. Doom: The Dark Ages officially revealed by id Software. This is like a medieval Doom, apparently,
I mean, medieval in the sense that like you have a shield, like a physical round shield on your arm.
and a furry cape.
It's a Doom prequel.
Is it really? Is that what they're
I
doing?
think it's
Or is
supposed
it?
to be before in the timeline, isn't it? I think that's what
I didn't know there was a
saw.
timeline. I didn't know there was a story to Doom. I thought you were just
There's a bit of
killing
there's a
demons for
very
demons' sake,
loose amount of lore.
just enough to get you
Yeah,
playing.
yeah, exactly. It's like
Uh,
that's what I saw. That maybe I should double check that. I'm not sure if that's actually right, but if it is, then it's the year of prequels to series that have been going for a really long time. Because we're getting the
Spoiler alert.
Gears prequel as well.
Yeah, that's right. But with Doom, they also mentioned what was I gonna say?
With Doom prequel,
No.
Dark Ages.
Oh. Phil Spencer said that is also coming to like PlayStation consoles and PC and stuff. Because he talked about how Doom is like, you know how people try to run Doom on everything, like, you know,
Yeah, yep.
Texas Instrument calculators and stuff. And so they thought that Doom should just be available everywhere. So that's kind of nice too. So couple good guy Microsoft things. Although I see people angry that, you know, oh, they still fired those people and shut down those studios, but now everyone's heaping praise on them. So
Isn't Doom already on Steam?
yeah, I think yeah.
So just that it's coming to PlayStation is the news.
They just confirmed that it's coming to PlayStation, I guess.
Yeah.
because it's kind of a question, given Microsoft owning these publishers now. But all right,
Did you
we
guys
already
see that they somebody got Doom running on RGB keyboards? They like set up RGB keyboards in like an array as like an
Oh
LCD
my,
screen.
oh my God.
And they were playing fucking Doom on there. And then I also saw somebody playing Doom on a clear blue pregnancy test.
What?
that how
There's no way.
There's a little, I mean, I don't know if it's a meme or like, whatever, but like
Yeah.
the video or the image was like the clear blue thing, because it's like that one that says like
Hashtag
just
not sponsored.
yeah, fuck. But it's like that pregnancy test that just tells you like pregnant or not pregnant on a screen. And so they had Doom running on the screen. Fucking pregnancy test.
How do you control it though? Like,
Hey, the meme is not, can you play Doom? It says, does
just
it
that it
run?
runs.
Does it
Oh, okay.
run Doom?
Fair enough.
I'm gonna look this up while you guys go to
I
that.
thought you had to
Like-
pee on it to like go left or right, pee on it a certain way.
It has like a biometric response. Your pee is too cold. That's a left turn.
Yeah. We already talked about a little bit about State of Decay 3. Not much to say since the trailer didn't really show much other than like a kind of like a little what they tried to make a little emotional scene. But
What they
sorry.
tried to make an emotional scene.
I didn't care about the guy. Like that's like,
Yeah.
oh, he got eaten. Oh, all right. Well,
Oh man,
he had a little stuffed animal. Oh,
I'll
okay.
never get over the Starfield trailer where they're like, or the gameplay trailer, and they're like, and you can even like have like romance and romantic relationships will bloom. And it's just that freaking cowboy guy and the player character staring off, not looking at each other, both looking off this balcony with blank expressions. And he goes, I don't know if I've ever loved someone as much as I love you.
Oh
It's
yeah.
like, wow. So not invested in this at all. They could not have made that more robotic.
I thought it was great. Good writing. I thought that was my
Good
very
writing,
first
yeah.
thought.
Good riddance, maybe.
Dragon Age, the Veilguard got revealed. They changed the name. It used to be Dreadwolf, which was better, but I guess they find that Veilguard is a more appropriate title given the story that they're trying to tell. I have a couple friends who are big Dragon Age fans, and we were all talking about this. We didn't like the look of this trailer. It made Dragon Age look very cartoony, and the gameplay kind of looks like that to a certain extent, but it does look a lot better. But this trailer just did not do anything for me.
Interesting. I've only heard insane hype over it. Aside from the people who are just like, oh, the name is bad, but like I honestly could not give less of a shit what a game is called. You know?
You literally call it like
Yes.
Dragon Age Hotel Hell. And
Yeah,
then you
I would
just-
agree with
Yeah,
you.
I'd still play it, yeah.
I'd agree with you if there weren't so many horrible video game titles. You know,
No, it doesn't affect my decision at all. I don't care if it's called Hotel Hell. It can be
I'm
if
playing-
it's a good game, it's a
yeah.
good game.
I'm gonna play it regardless, but the name does suck. Maybe it'll be better after I play it.
It's just
Hmm.
the same. I mean, like, to be fair, my opinion is not loaded because I don't know the lore of any of the characters. Like, as far as I'm aware, the Dread Wolf is like a title that a guy has in Dragon Age lore. And if he's like prominent in the game, yeah, it would make sense if the game's title is like relevant to his title.
Mhm.
But I don't know. I don't have that like background to it, I guess. And so to me, from like this perspective, it's just the game is just, your standard fantasy,
Yeah.
Dragon Age, adjective noun,
hmm
Dread Wolf, Veil Guard, Storm Stone. Like it's just adjective noun.
Yeah.
It's a
you're
solid
right.
way to name your D&D character, and it's a solid way to name your video game.
The trailer was a bit odd. It was using a cover song of Heroes by David Bowie. And that was I don't know, it wasn't working for me.
Feels like
Wasn't
out of
flowing
touch.
right. Yeah. I don't mind using pop songs over, medieval or, fantasy kind of things. If done right, it can be kind of cool. I don't know, it just wasn't working for me here. But the gameplay reveal was the day after I watched that. Game looks great. Game looks like good old Dragon Age. I see a lot of people saying, like, Dragon Age is back. This is fantastic. So now the question is, how does it compare to Baldur's Gate? Do you think that still matters though, Tim? Do you think people are going to compare it, or is it different enough?
Dragon Age to Baldur's Gate? I mean, I don't
Yeah.
no one would look at Baldur's Gate and say they took no inspiration from BioWare. Like
Mhm.
it's you can see that like the devs loved that kind of RPG. And it doesn't have to be, Dragon Age versus Baldur's Gate, obviously. Um, I
And
think
Bioware
that
having made the first two Baldur's Gate.
yeah, hilariously, right?
Yeah.
Um, so like there clearly it's that same sort of vibe, the very narrative driven choices matter RPG with lots of character interaction and like choices will change the story because like maybe a character that is involved in this part is just dead because of a choice you made or a conversation that went wrong or et cetera, et cetera. Very organic emergent gameplay, right? Which I love, and I love so much that that's becoming a huge thing in RPGs now,
Hmm.
um, bringing it more to the forefront. But yeah, like I don't. They can both sit at the table, you know. There doesn't need to be a competition.
Yeah, I agree with that. I just think it's unfortunate timing that like one of the greatest RPGs comes out right before Dragon Age is trying to make their big comeback. You
Yeah,
know?
it's funny, but like at the same time, right? Like it's I think people who played um Baldur's Gate and they've never played a BioWare game before. Like I'm seeing a lot of hype around Mass Effect recently, which is
Mm,
BioWare. I think a lot of people who played Baldur's Gate and they're into sci-fi as much as they are into fantasy are like now that their interest has been piqued by Baldur's Gate, now they're trying to expand out and say, okay, what other games out there are like this that'll provide me a similar experience?
yeah.
And obviously, Mass Effect and Dragon Age can maybe scratch that itch a little bit. Um, so I think Baldur's Gate might actually have been a really good thing for Dragon Age
Hmm.
because now you've got people who otherwise would have maybe ignored it, giving it a chance because they enjoyed Baldur's Gate so much.
Yeah. One of my concerns is that a lot of people are excited because, you know, Dragon Age and Mass Effect are coming back, but I have to imagine that a lot of people who made the originals are no longer at BioWare.
Sure,
BioWare has
yeah,
been through such a tumultuous time. And, you know, if I hear a lot of people who like when a studio is forced to make an online multiplayer game, a lot of people leave because that's not what they signed up to be at BioWare for.
right, yep,
You would leave the studio, go somewhere else. And so I'm always just cautious of it's not just because the studio is named BioWare doesn't mean that they're going to make another great Dragon Age or another great Mass Effect.
yeah,
You
very
know, it's
true.
been years and
Yep,
there's different writers and different, you know, directors and all sorts of people. So
yep. It's very good to stay cognizant of, right? Like it's the people,
yeah,
it's not the studio.
yeah, yeah. All right, Matt, moving on to your RPG field here. Starfield DLC trailer showed off a first look at Shattered Space. Now, Shattered Space is a kind of a cool name. I'll give them that. They got that name right.
The topics looks
So,
good too. Like the them going into the Varun stuff is pretty interesting.
tell us who the Varun are, Matt.
They're one of the three superpowers of the galaxy. There's the United Colonies, the Freestar Collective, and the Varun. But the Varun are very secretive. They're almost cult-like in their beliefs, and
Hmm.
they have an embassy, for example, in the United Colonies, New Atlantis, just like the Freestar Collective has, but it's like abandoned. No one really talks to them, things like that. But we know that they're out there, and there's a renegade group of them, which are religious zealots, and they like basically, as far as I know, kill on sight. So it's
Okay.
it'll be interesting to see. Presumably, what we'll see is we'll see their actual like structure, like their actual like government, and they mention you're a trespasser, I believe, in Varun territory, which maybe their capital city or something, and like that's a big no no. So we'll see what's up.
So I started Starfield. I never finished it. Do you think I should jump in when that DLC launches?
Yeah, because you're gonna get a fair bit of the improvements now. Like I've been popping in to try the updates. I haven't really been playing too religiously, but I popped in with this update too because Shattered Space is a DLC, but it launched alongside an update that night. So
I might try to play it more on console because I just find that I will actually play console games rather than PC games. I tried playing it on my PC because, you know, one of the problems that I had at launch is it wasn't at 30. It was only at 30 FPS on console, and so I wanted a little smoother than that. So I was doing it on PC, but they added 60 FPS to the console version. So when I jump back in, I might just go all console and
you
try
can
to
do a
actually get
hybrid of
through it.
that, eh?
A hybrid of what? Oh, they have
You
like a
can make it,
balanced mode or something like a.
yeah. So they make it so that it'll run the best textures possible to achieve 60 FPS, and it'll dynamically lessen the graphical fidelity if the performance would take a hit.
Horizon Forbidden West did something like that, and it was remarkable. I couldn't believe it. That game looked amazing. It ran super smooth, and just having that setting on was crazy. World of Warcraft: The War Within. Tim, is this one of the trailers you watched at all? Being
No,
a
actually, I didn't.
oh, okay, all right, we'll skip that then. It's
So
coming. There you go.
it's coming August 25th or something.
No console release though, which has been speculated for years now, right?
Mm.
So that's still not
This would have been a
existing.
good time to do it because like this is the first chapter of their what they're doing is like a multi-expansion story.
Hmm.
Um,
So get some people in.
yeah, get people, into the story from the beginning, right? And getting it all in
Yeah.
console. Unless they maybe intend like, 3 or 6 years down the line or however long they plan on taking to do this. Um, maybe they'll release some sort of like complete story edition or whatever, where you can have all three expansions and enjoy the story that way or whatever.
I should mention that this list I'm going off of is from IGN, just because I wanted to kind of read what this next game is about. Claire Obscure Expedition 33. So there was a few games, Matt, that were kind of, I guess, new to me at least. I don't know if people had known about them, but this was a completely out of nowhere game that I thought looked pretty cool. So this is yeah, revealed new games like Claire Obscure Expedition 33. Promises to come out to Xbox Game Pass. Filled with mind-bending locations and strange enemies. I guess what the premise of this was, there's something in their world that like kills them, or do you remember exactly what happened in it?
I don't, not
There was there,
specifically.
there was something that is doing something evil, and
What?
they have to try to kill it,
That's a
and
crazy premise for a game.
they've sent several, I guess, expeditions to destroy this thing. And in this game, you're on Expedition 33.
That's a lot.
But it was doing something. Something evil was happening. That's what I remember.
I can't wait to
I
find
I
audio
thought it looked pretty cool
logs
though.
of
I
the previous
specifically don't remember this
expeditions.
one. Right.
They kind of had like I don't even know how to describe it to you, Matt. You gotta go back and watch the trailer. So we'll just keep moving. South of Midnight, we finally got gameplay. This was just revealed, I think, last year. We just got a little cinematic trailer. I thought this looked awesome. I'm always kind of excited to see a game that just looks different. So many games just kind of look similar, particularly if you're using the same engine. A lot of them have same art styles, and particularly when you try to go for realism in your graphics, then most games kind of just end up looking very similar. And so this one has a very unique style to it. So that was just kind of cool. I mean, the gameplay looked like standard kind of action adventure kind of game, but I thought it was cool. Matt, what'd you think?
I thought it was cool, but the animation is in like a different frame rate, I felt like.
Only during the cutscenes, though.
Okay.
Now maybe they did like 24, so maybe it was film, but maybe it was even 20. I don't know.
Because I noticed, like, I played a game that I'm pretty sure was just poorly coded way back, and it
Hmm.
was like that, where the animations were at like 20 whatever, and like I actually threw up due to motion
Oh,
sickness.
oh wow.
Like it's something. There's something about. Well, it was a car game though, but it was like something about moving two things moving on the screen and one not being at the same frame rate, but I'm reacting to the world in the other frame rate, and it really messed my. Like I don't usually get motion sickness either, and like I was not good.
I think this is definitely a stylistic choice. I don't think it's a performance thing. You know, I think they try to make it look more cartoony, more animated kind of thing. You know. So, Tim, did you manage to see this one at all?
Not this one this time. I remember seeing the old one. I know the one you're talking about.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know the art style and stuff is like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's always nice to see like when a game has a very clear artistic
Hmm.
direction and they
Hmm.
just like really lean into it.
Yeah.
Because a lot of games will play with an idea, but they won't go full bore with it. Like they're not almost like not confident enough to try to execute on it. And it's like it's good to see when a project does go like believe in its vision and
It's also very hard just to make certain things look iconic or look
Mhm.
recognizable or just have a cool design to them. So like a lot of designs are just very generic. They look interesting, but they're not remarkable, right? Outriders, nothing in that game is memorable or I love the game.
Oh,
I love the game, but it's just you know what I mean, Matt?
I remember that
It
whole
could
story,
be
Ryan.
not the story, not the story. The look of the creatures and the characters and the world. It looked like any other kind of you know alien world kind of game. You know
It
what I
looked like
mean?
sci-fi game on Xbox One. Like
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah. And so a lot of games fall into that trap. But I understand its design's very hard and it's subjective too. So there is
yeah.
that. Yeah. All right, Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater. I was kind of worried about this game based on the previous trailers we had seen. They were so like uninspired and very non Kojima like. that first one was very just kind of bland, where they're like the camera flies to the swamp and past alligators and crab, and then it just zooms in on the snake, and that was like it. And I was just like, all right, well, but this one looked pretty awesome. So it does just kind of look like a modern version of the game, and that's kind of all we're asking for. And I thought it looked great. Any remarks?
I mean the only Metal Gear Solid 3 I've ever played was on a demo disc on PS2, and then I watched Aaron play it in our presence. So
Oh, that's right. Yeah, he played
yeah,
through a bunch of them, right?
1, 2, and 3.
Yeah. So are you not any interest in this, Matt? Then are you not going to get it?
No, I
No.
like the open worldness of Phantom Pain. That's why I picked that one up. But then
Oh,
Fallout 4
okay.
came out like a week after I picked it up, and then I was like, well, I mean, I'm not going to be playing Phantom Pain. I'm going to be playing Fallout 4.
I am curious, and I don't know if they've answered this. So in the original MGS3, you're in like little tiny maps, and then you do like your mission or you do like your little sneak past some guards, and then like you get to like a bridge, and then it shows like an animation of you running across the bridge, and then it loads the next little section.
Right.
So the whole game is in like these little micro sections as you're playing through it. Is this remake going to be like that, or maybe they answered this? I have a vague notion that they answered that it's going to be more open.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Because that's like, that could be a style that you go for, but
Mhm.
it is also masking a technological limitation of the time.
Yeah.
So and then it's also a difficult decision to make, right? Like, I don't know, like you said, the information might be out there, but from the sort of designing perspective, it's sort of, do we keep this little, nuanced thing in here? Like, what do we keep and what do we cut and what do we change?
You know what I'm a little sad about is that I always thought like, when you have to crawl through a tight space in a game, it's like they're obviously loading the next area because they slow you down and you got to crawl through the crack in the wall. I still see that in games, even though we have super fast load times nowadays. Is that a style thing now? Are they
I
doing
think
that
it
for
it
nostalgia?
kind of is, yeah. And it's done so much now to the point that it's like almost you see it, and then if someone goes, "Oh, they do that because they're like loading the next area." It's like
Yeah.
anytime you watch Lord of the Rings, the Two Towers, and Aragorn kicks the helmet, and the person goes, "Actually, did you know that when they
Yeah.
told that when Aragorn kicked the helmet and it broke his toe?"
Yeah.
It's like everybody knows that by that point, and it's
Hmm.
like games aren't even trying to hide it. But it's like again, like you say, right? Like, are you doing this just because it's like a meme, or are you doing it because genuinely you need to like
It's
load something in the next area?
maybe it's the Wilhelm scream of video games.
the
It's
like
the inside joke that
the
everyone
narrow
knows.
space crawl.
Yeah.
You know what
Speak.
game would feel weird without it is Resident Evil.
Oh, because it's like kind of claustrophobic, kind of like you're stuck in there. Are the zombies going to get you? That kind of thing.
Well, because it's like the fixed camera angle in the small environments is a crucial thing, but the door loading screens are super iconic, where it like shows the door and then like and it like creeps open and then you load into that area.
That's only for
Like,
the first one, isn't it?
yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Like that first one, I'm saying, like if something is that iconic, at that point, I think it like almost transcends the meme. It's like it was required, but it's like a
Oh, so if
design
they were
thing.
like they did do that like kind of HD remake of the first game,
Yeah, we beat
but
that.
if they were to actually remake it, where it's more like
RE make?
RE2, yeah, yeah, you would still want the doors to do that.
I would, I think,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
because I mean I'm not a big RE guy, and like I remember that.
I always get pissed off when they limit my mobility in a game for no reason. And speaking of Gears of War, like whenever they get a radio call, they like start
They slow
walking. You can
down
no longer you can
walking.
no longer run. You like clearly they're loading something here. There's no reason I have to walk while I'm listening to my radio, and that pisses me off all the time. I just want to run around on my own. Stop. Leave me
Yeah,
alone.
that's valid. Especially when it's a game where you normally can, and then they take that
Yeah,
away. It's very
yeah.
frustrating.
I'm just flicking the sticks around because I'm just so pissed off.
Jesus,
Work, God damn it.
control.
Uh,
I gotta get through this call so I can walk again.
yeah.
It's
Hang on,
Perfect
Marcus. I gotta
Dark.
rip that door.
Perfect Dark reboot finally reappears with a first look at gameplay.
Man, fuck yeah. Oh, fucking we. Hey!
Interesting trailer. It was kind of unusual, but it looked pretty good.
Perfect Dark is unusual. It's a fucking weird game.
I've never played the first, so the first one's like that too.
Well, the first one's N64. I only played that multiplayer.
The first one's N64.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same
thought it was-
engine as GoldenEye. I think it's very similar to GoldenEye.
Whoa,
That sounds right. Yeah.
my
No,
mind's
I
blown.
when I was telling, because you guys were texting about it, like I've beat Perfect Dark Zero probably like 21 times because it was in that era of
Wow.
like you're playing a shooter and I don't have online yet. So
Yeah,
it's like I'll boot this up for a few hours, but I've played this so much that I can beat it in a few hours. So
which is so
Right.
funny because I remember people being so mad at that game because it was. I guess a lot of people thought it was like after the first game, it was very generic shooter. They wanted more like I don't really know what they wanted out of it when like the only other Perfect Dark was on N64.
yeah,
I just remember people being mad about Perfect Dark Zero, thinking it was wasn't very good. But then you've got, the only thing to compare it to is the other game in the series, which by all accounts was like a really good shooter on N64. And it had a campaign to it, but it wasn't super complicated,
Does
no, like
Microsoft own it now? They own the IP or the studio or
Yeah, I
what?
think so.
Who was the
Because they own
studio?
Rareware, right?
Rare was the studio behind it?
Rare was the studio in N64. I don't know about Zero
Oh, wow. Okay.
or this one.
Zero is Rare as well. I think
But Rare isn't making this one, are they?
I don't know. Crystal Dynamics and the Initiative.
And Crystal Dynamics is like a support studio, right? Didn't they bring them on to help them?
I'm not sure on the logistics there. But what's funny is they did quote unquote remake or whatever remaster, like facelift the first one. I remember back on I want to say the 360 and make it digitally downloadable. And if my memory is correct, there's a guy you knock out in the elevator, and they made that guy Peter Molyneux. I remember like going into the fucking elevator, being like, "Hang on, is that the fucking Halo guy or the Fable guy?" And then it's just like, "Oh," and he gets knocked out.
Yeah, so the initiative was only formed in 2018 and their only game they're working on is Perfect Dark. Um
It looks
however
fucking awesome though too.
they got some decent talent here if some of these other games or studios that these developers have worked on. Christian Cantamessa, writer of Red Dead Redemption, Brian Westergaard, senior producer of 2018's God of War, and then talents from BioWare, Naughty Dog, Respawn Entertainment, Santa Monica Studio, Blizzard
Damn,
Entertainment, Insomniac Games, and Rockstar Games.
damn.
Jesus, they're putting a lot of eggs into this basket. Oh my
Yeah,
God.
so hopefully it turns out pretty well. The game looked interesting. A lot of parkour. I didn't expect that. It kind of looked like Mirror's Edge a bit. Um,
Man, remember Mirror's Edge? Whew.
yeah,
Remember they
yeah.
remade it and like everyone was like freaking out, and then it just didn't sell well.
A classic case of never listen to your consumers. Because
Man,
if they ask you for a game, don't make it because it won't sell.
that's so actually like super sad.
No, it's the classic thing. Consumers don't know what they want.
Yeah, I
You have
suppose.
to show them what they want.
Well, it's like the loudest group is not necessarily going to be the majority
Yeah,
people, right?
yeah. Like when they convinced Sony to bring Morbius back to theaters.
Incredible.
It's Morbin time. Time to Morb again.
Yeah.
I remember the big like sort of gimmick, I guess, or like the big thing about Perfect Dark Zero on the 360 was that you could press, I think it was left bump to roll, and it would be it's a first person shooter, but you would like do a roll and it would go into third person. And then I think you could also take cover on like doors, like specific like door frames. And you could like come up and like, man, I used to play the fuck out of that game. Like it was wild.
Not much to say about Diablo, but that I guess it's a trailer. The trailer they showed off looked incredible. I don't know, I can't remember who they get to do those trailers, but goddamn, that looked amazing. It was super graphic though. I
Super
know
graphic.
That's Diablo.
I have to imagine some kids are watching this show. Just see some horrible things happen to that woman.
I mean, isn't
Um,
it the show is those showcases are always kind of rated M though, right? Because like you're gonna get a
well,
variety of stuff. You're gonna get E to M.
at the beginning it shows, ESRB rates
Yeah.
games rated E to M, yeah.
Peggy 12, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. Other than that, I mean, look cool, but not again, no gameplay. But we already know what Diablo looks like, so.
Man, Age
Yeah.
of Mythology looked incredible too.
Oh, you didn't want me to skip that one, eh?
No, hell no.
Did you notice I skipped that one?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, okay.
I thought you were going to
Tell us-
talk about it, and I was like, man,
Well,
you're going to talk about Age of Mythology.
I have no personal connection with it, but go ahead, man.
I just love Age of Mythology. I like it, and it re-released once already, and it reminds me so much of Titan Quest. How for some reason Titan Quest just like
Oh, yeah,
came
yeah.
back and then back again, like another game's coming out. This is retold, so it's a modern way of redoing the first game, as far as I know. But pretty damn good.
Wait, so it's a reboot or wait?
I don't know. It's called Retold, so like to me, it looks
Okay.
it looks like it's like the first game, sort of like reimagined, right? So it is like a new game, but like you're going to be very similar, very familiar with it. But I don't like RTS campaigns usually, so I'm just going to be in skirmish anyway. But this also, like, and probably very closely like related to it in a way, is I remember Age of Empires 2 obviously came out, and Age of Empires 2 HD had come out, and then they redid it again. Like someone else redid it again, and that's the one that's on Game Pass, I believe. So this feels like this, where it's like Age of Mythology came out, Age of Mythology was redone. Now it's like, no. There's another Age of Mythology now. This is also the game that I pissed Connor off ridiculously because I used the cheapest faction. So, and will
So
continue to do so.
what is the game? Is it RTS? What is it?
RTS, yeah.
RTS?
RTS, but not like a grand scale RTS. It's like it's like Age of Mythology and Age of Empires. Like Age of Empires is realistic. Age of Mythology is about like mythology.
Yeah. So, are you playing gods, or are you? What's your role in governing the characters and stuff?
So you get to choose your faction. So Greek, Norse, Egyptian, Atlantean. I think the other remaster, remake, whatever it is, added the Chinese as well. And you get to choose, like you level up slowly, like you level up, whatever based on command points or whatever the hell it is, and you get to choose gods, and the gods give you perks. So it's like, oh, this god will give you like great farms. This god will give you the ability to every 30 seconds like smite somebody. And then you slowly work your way up to Titan, which was an expansion. And then you build like this building, and you get all your villagers to like Rostegoma, and they all like beating the shit out of their fucking.
I don't know what that means.
They're all.
What does it mean to Rostegoma?
I don't know. They all run around and say stuff like Volume and like Forested, shit like that. But the thing that's hilarious is normally your villagers have to go, like if they chop down some wood, they have to go to a lumber camp, or they have to go to like your main base to drop off the resources. I play as the Atlanteans, which are slower at taking stuff out, but they have donkeys, and the donkeys have boxes that are infinitely fillable. So literally and it goes instantly into your thing. And they can all become heroes. They can all ascend to be heroes. So I had a bunch of like hero guys with donkeys just like mining away and like taking out forests and shit.
I take a little issue with there being Atlanteans and Greeks. Aren't they part of the same mythology?
Well, no, like Atlanteans are like they're mythological in this game. Like you can make all your people heroes.
Yeah,
like,
no, that's what I'm saying.
We're talking about like the lost city of Atlantis magic.
But that's a Greek mythology, isn't it?
They're I would imagine they're closely related. I don't know the semantics of it, but the Greek faction is more like it's rooted in our reality.
You're controlling human Greeks, and
yes.
then there are the Greek gods and mythical creatures and stuff, but then there's this Atlantean faction that is Atlantean gods.
It's like the quote unquote mythological or whatever you believe in city of Atlantis.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like you're dealing with those specific.
Yeah.
You should play it,
right.
It's a good one.
I want a good RTS because like I've had a good experience with the Star Wars RTSs back in the day, and I want to find another game that kind of scratches that itch, and I haven't found it yet. I tried there's one Microsoft had. Was it Microsoft? Yeah, I think it's a Microsoft game. It's on Game Pass.
Called Halo Wars.
No, I did try that. I didn't really get into it.
God, do love some Halo Wars though. God damn.
Not Age of Empires. Was it Age of Empires? No, that's the one you played, right, Matt?
Age of Empires is the Microsoft one, though. They own that. This is the same thing, though, right? Age of Empires, Age of Mythology.
Oh, okay.
That's what I mean. Like when you were asking, like what type of RTS, I was saying it's not grand. It's like Age of Empires, but Age of Empires is like medieval times, and this is the Age of Mythology. It's the same type of game, but just in a different skin.
Okay, yeah, I definitely want to try it out. Yeah, for sure. All right, let's move on to I think a game you guys both like, Fable.
Hey,
is this just called Fable?
Yeah.
Yep.
Is this a reboot then? I guess.
The C-boot. I have no idea.
Maybe it's a C-boot. Yeah. But yeah, what do you guys think of the Fable trailer?
Think it's so far?
They did say that they were like showing gameplay, like it was gameplay footage. If it is like that, I was pretty impressed. I did like that it was a very narrative trailer because the whole point of Fable is that it's supposed to be a narrative telling the story of the heroes.
The little twist in the story.
Yeah, I like the I'm a huge fan of like the English humor of Fable. It was my first real like foray, I think, as a kid into like English humor, aside from like watching Mr. Bean, this sort of thing. Just that like slapstick. But it gives me hope that the that the game's writing is going to match up with what I expect from the previous games. Because
Hmm.
like that was the best part of Fable 1, Fable 2. I haven't really played Fable 3 as much. I'd have to give it another try because I didn't really like Fable 3 much, but I think I did beat it twice over the first couple of years after it came out.
Everyone considers that the worst one, right?
Yeah, I think it's just because the thing with Fable is it was a very experimental game series. Like Peter Molyneux, Lionsgate Studios and stuff, or Lionshead. It's they were trying weird stuff. And like there's a lot of stuff in that is now like standardized in the RPG genre that is thanks to Fable.
Hmm.
Like it definitely was very key in a lot of functionality in those kinds of games. And that's how you do it, right? You try funky shit and you see what sticks, and then if stuff really works, then other games in that genre are gonna pick it up, right?
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
always liked that it did that. At the same time, I think it was also Fable 3's downfall, is that they tried some stuff that was just like too um like ambitious maybe. Like it's stuff that at the end of the day you're still trying to play a game, and it's like this thing in your game is kind of cool, but if I'm trying to go into a menu and I have to physically walk through a room,
Fuck
like
that room.
that's stupid.
Oh,
And that's so tedious. It adds so much unnecessary time. But it's like, it's the sort of thing where you're in the planning room and you're like, what if we don't actually have any menus? What if we just interact with a different world in the way that we would interact with the menu? And it's a world that you can just pull up at any time. It's like, yeah, conceptually that sounds interesting. Once you've played the game for 40 hours and you have to go into this room over and over and over again, and there's a load screen to go into this lobby room, and then you go from the lobby to the armory, and then you got a load screen again, and then you have to go to your mannequins. You have to pick which gun you want, which sword you want, and you have to go to a different room to go to your like wardrobe and pick your different outfit. It's like this is way too much time wasted for what could have just been a menu. Um,
do
and
you
that's not.
remember? Do you remember in multiplayer? You have to be on the same screen, so it'd be like, I need to change my armor. And it's like, okay, we both need to go into
Now
the
you
armor
both need to go
room.
to the venue, yeah, the menu, yeah. So like cool idea. Having John Cleese there as your butler every time. That's cool points. But at the same time, it's like I just want to pull up a menu and swap a gun. That's all I want to do. I don't want to have to go through two areas and two loading zones. This isn't Starfield, like so it's just little things like that. So all this to say, the direction of the trailer for the story and stuff, it gives me hope. I'm really intrigued by the characters and like the narrative they're trying to explain, like convey for this world and stuff. Because I also really liked it's very loose, but I liked the lore of Fable. I liked that world where some people are just heroes. And then they go to a heroes guild and they get trained up. Then the heroes guild kind of fell off, and then people weren't really heroes anymore in Fable 2. And you're part of like a dying breed, and you're bringing heroes back in Fable 2 and stuff. So, um, yeah, it's really interesting. It kind of seems like they're going back to more older fantasy because Fable 3 was also like kind of industrial era, but make it fantasy, which
Oh yeah, that's right.
as a personal thing, like I wasn't really big on industrial stuff in like a fantasy setting. I'm more open to the idea now, but at the time I was like, why is there steampunk in my fantasy? Um, but that also kind of put me off of it. But this seems
I,
to be kind of like a callback to early days.
I saw one funny comment. It said that Fable looks like Dragon Age, and Dragon Age looks like Fable. They've kind of they've kind of swapped looks.
I do like the art style for Fable though.
Yeah.
From
Oh, it looks fantastic.
if what they say is gameplay, and that's what the game's gonna look like, that's pretty sick.
Yeah. I even just like the look of the lead character. She just has like a kind of a great look to her. I think it's all great looking.
Yeah, I wonder if it'll be one of those things where you kind of like play her in sections, and then
Is
you'll
she not
also
who you
have your
play?
like. Well, I wonder if there's going to be like a customizable character.
Because the other games had that.
Like you had your hero, and Fable 1 you just had like the kid, but Fable 2 you could pick the younger brother, younger sister, and Fable 3 you could pick like the prince or the princess. Um,
Oh, I see. Okay.
but then you have the customization in terms of like beard style and haircut and clothing and things.
But
So I
all
guess
on like a base, like a core
like a
figure, I
base
guess.
a base character, right? But
Yeah.
yeah, no,
Okay.
yeah, you're right. You could still be her and then just change her hairstyle. And it's Fable. I wouldn't be surprised if they say you want her to have a beard. Sure, give her a beard.
Yeah.
Give her a
Well,
big like braided dwarven beard because
I
you
mean,
know what?
in
Why not?
today's day and age, too, people just want that. Just
I always what was the first game that like Monster Hunter, I think. Monster Hunter always let you put beards on your like female hunter. And I was like, or not always, but like I think as from World, they started doing that, and I was like, you know what? Hell yeah, why not? I'm gonna make my character like bright red skin with a green afro and a big green beard. Hell yeah. Just do it. Why? Who cares, man? Just give me some options.
apologies to Matt. I'm gonna skip some of your favorite games.
Wait, what the fuck? What the fuck's happening?
I know you were excited for Winter Burrow.
Oh, I could give a fuck. Oh, excuse me.
Jesus.
I know you were excited for Mixtape. That was
I
a
don't even
very
know what that
Matt
is.
Lawrence game. I mean, I'll probably play it, but I know you want to play it even more than I do. So
I mean, it says mixtape sees music and story takes center stage. That is not a Matt Lawrence game,
That's not a Matt Lawrence
yeah,
game?
Sure, yeah.
and it is not.
Matt Lawrence called me in the middle of the night. Like he said, he woke up in a cold sweat about how much he wanted to play Mixtape. Not a word of a lie.
That's not good because I don't even remember what it looked like.
Life is Strange returns with a classic character. Apparently, I played the first one. I actually platinum the first one. It's a pretty easy platinum. And I know there is.
You must have liked it, and then that was an easy platinum actually. So.
I mean, there's a fan base for it, and I understand why, but I don't think I'm the demographic for it. But I do just kind of enjoy playing those kind of. It's kind of like a Telltale-ish kind of style of a game.
Yep.
So I don't mind that. So I am actually kind of trying to play the second Life is Strange. Just I don't know. There's sometimes these games that I don't really. I'm not gonna like write home about them, but I still play them. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And that's kind of what Life is Strange is for me, which is weird. But Indiana
Right, it's
Jones.
strange.
Indiana Jones got a big old trailer. I guess not really a trailer. They just showed off parts of the game, like a whole section of the game. I thought it looked both good and weird. I thought the pacing felt a little off. It felt a little slow, and maybe the original game or maybe the original movies are slow, but they're just so kind of ingrained that I'm okay with that. You know,
I would say
But I
they
like
felt like the old movies.
I liked what I saw, but it just felt a little off to me. I don't know what it was. Did you guys get that sense at all?
I didn't too much. I will say that I don't know about his voice. There were a
You don't like
couple
it?
of scenes where it sounded like Harrison Ford, and then there was a couple of scenes where it's like, wait, was that Indy that just spoke? And I caught myself doing that a couple of times. So like
Well,
I need to see him talk longer, I think.
it's Troy Baker doing the voice.
Okay.
I think
Yeah.
for the most part, I think he's doing a bang up job. But I think there's a difference in the projection of his voice. He spoke a lot softer than I've ever heard Indiana Jones speak in any of the movies.
Right.
You know, and so that didn't really feel like Indy, even though it kind of sounded like Indy. You know, but overall though, in all the other like scenes and in the quick like cuts and stuff, it sounds pretty great. It's a pretty good Harrison Ford impression.
Yeah, it's Harrison Ford is one of those voices where he's just kind of like you wouldn't think that you can mimic it, but he does a really good job.
Yeah, because it's like it's a unique voice, but not one so unique that you can just do your own impression of it.
Yeah, it's not like a caricature, right? It's like just
like a Trump voice. You know,
Yeah,
everyone has their own Trump voice.
Everyone's got their own Trump. Everyone's got their own like fucking Patrick Warburton. Everyone's got their own Peter Griffin. Everyone's got their own Mickey Mouse.
Griffin.
You know, but like not
For the
everyone has their
record-
own friggin'
For the record,
Harrison
I don't
Ford.
have my own Peter Griffin voice.
Ryan has his own Peter Griffin. It's really good. It's very 1-to-1. Genuinely, I was like, holy crap! Am I watching an episode of Family Guy right now?
I would only ever attempt to do that voice if I knew I was alone and the doors were locked.
Oh, they were.
But I'm still excited. This is from who's the developer on this? Machine Games. So, and everyone makes the joke that they're no strangers to punching Nazis. So them making an Indiana Jones game is perfect. So yeah, I'm excited for that one. I guess one of the things I didn't mention, all these games or a lot of these games are on Game Pass day one, which is again just absurd. That it's like I'll just have it when it comes out. You know,
Yeah,
I'll just be able to download it and just play it. And I think that actually helps a lot with some of these games that I maybe wouldn't have
Given a chance
necessarily played.
otherwise. Yeah.
Like that Expedition 33, I would probably have skipped that game if it wasn't on Game Pass. But because it is, it's like, well, might as well give it a go, you know?
Yeah.
Might as well see what it's all about.
Huge value.
Yeah. Avowed, I didn't really absorb this trailer, actually. I don't remember anything from it. So, if anyone else has
I think it
anything to
looks
comment
good.
on. Oh, yeah? Okay, cool.
I like was on the fence, and every time they showed it off, I became like less on the fence and more toward, yeah, I'll give it a try. And this one, I think I'm in. Finally, I think I'll give this one a go. It looked pretty fun.
Yeah. Pretty short trailer, minute 37.
That game's coming out like soon too, right? Yeah,
I think
2024.
I think yeah. Well, a lot of these were just 2024, just generic. Any point in 2024.
Right. Well, probably like holiday season and then delayed to 2025. But
Yeah. I'm just quickly kind of looking at this trailer. I don't know. Yeah, I don't remember seeing a lot of this. I think I just missed it. I was probably on my phone.
Oh,
I just remember it. Like I don't remember anything being super specific about it. Like I don't remember there being like a specific key scene or anything. But I just remember being like, okay, like I think I'm sold enough to give this a go at least.
Yeah, I think I'm in. Yeah.
day one.
Day one.
This next game is hilarious.
Atomfall.
Yeah. Yeah.
It definitely looked like it took some Fallout inspiration.
It looks like a British Fallout game.
A Fallout London, so to speak.
Hey, oh.
Packed with color and deadly dreamlike locations, this first-person survival action game sees players exploring a version of Britain plagued by nuclear waste. This is due out in 2025, and then it delayed till 2026.
It says that in right there.
Yeah.
Aw.
This is a survival action game, though.
Yeah.
I think I'm a little less excited after reading survival.
Survival action is like the same thing as like Fallout 76.
Yep.
Is it?
Yeah, I'd say that's survival action.
Mm.
You eat, you drink, you cook things up, you gather materials.
Don't you remember how pissed off I was when we first started playing 76 about those aspects?
Yeah. You had to eat and drink more or less.
Yeah. Next, Assassin's Creed Shadows had another trailer. I think I'm already at the point where I've seen enough of this game and just kind of I'll buy it. Just let me buy it, please. You know.
I
But they
have a
did.
question about this game actually for you guys. So in the other Assassin's Creeds where you get to choose a character like a brother or sister, usually, right, or whatever, you choose the brother or the sister and you play through the whole game with it. I was kind of curious whether this game would actually benefit from not being able to swap characters.
You want to choose one?
I want to choose one and like do like the samurai guy, he runs in there, like that's his thing. He runs in there and he fights everybody face first. Whereas the, whatever his friend is, or I don't know the exact relationship, but the lady character, she's more of like a ninja where she like kind of creeps around, does the stealth. And I kind of thought it'd be cool. I understand the ability, like I understand people would, want to be able to swap to try things out. But I kind of thought it'd be cool to like be forced to choose a style because in the other games, it's just like the visuals and like a voice actor. There's no actual difference. Now there's a bit of stock in your choice of like, well, do you want to run around being stealthy or do you want to run around, kind of guns a-blazing?
I mean,
But,
you could do that in the other games too. It's just you would just do it with the same character, right?
Yeah.
So
I think
it's
in
just,
this
it's just a
game,
means of kind of splitting up a gameplay style that you might already have like done anyway, just with one character instead of two.
well, actually that raises a good question though, Tim, is like, I wonder, like obviously the one person's geared toward like hand-to-hand combat and the other person's geared towards stealth, but I'm curious whether you could stealth as the samurai. I don't really know how that would work or if you can do it. Like I wonder if there's like abilities that are specific. Like I'm not like, how deep is that?
I mean, it's probably like one of those things where you could do it. He just doesn't have any like perks for it.
Right.
So it's like stealth on hard mode.
I mean, he has that big set of armor on though. Like
Yeah.
one of the aspects of or one of the new things they added is you can actually go prone. I think for the first time in an Assassin's Creed game, hard to see him going prone in that big suit of armor.
I want to see him with the reed, like breathing reed, up out of the water from the pond.
That was cool as shit, actually. I really like that.
But then frozen over because the weather changes.
That's right. That particular interaction really reminded me of 007 Nightfire when you go to that mission where you go to the guy's house in Japan where he's like being kidnapped.
Oh,
I don't know why. Just because, like, I guess it was the traditional Japanese, but you're also like stealthing. I saw a lot of like criticism, and it's just like baseless internet, anonymous comments, but people being like, "Oh, they took this from Ghost of Tsushima. They took this from Ghost of Tsushima," and it's like, yeah, if you've got two games where you play as a samurai in feudal Japan, and it's like narrative driven, but there's also stealth sections. I mean, just inherently, there's going to be crossover. It's like, oh, they took the I can't remember what there was a specific name for it in Ghost of Tsushima where the assassin kind of, I guess they're both assassins, but the ninja like does the stab through the paper wall because you can see the shadow of the guy on it. It's like, oh, I just took that from Ghost of Tsushima, and it's like, I mean, it's a pretty. If you think that they've taken it from Ghost of Tsushima, then Ghost of Tsushima stole everything from old samurai films. Like
From
you're
every
just,
samurai film.
yeah, you're just showing that you've never watched a samurai movie before.
Yeah.
You think
Yeah.
Ghost of Tsushima came up with all of this? You think that
Yeah.
this random team of American devs know everything about feudal Japan and have created everything for the first time? I don't think so.
It'd be like saying Watch Dogs stole cars from GTA.
I thought you were gonna say stole cars from Disney's Cars.
Ka-chow! Like every time you get into a Watch Dogs car, ka-chow!
Man, the driving in that first Watch Dogs was horrible.
Yeah, it's pretty rugged. Man,
God.
I wish they stole GTA. Or I guess you said the reverse, didn't you?
Yeah, like Watch Dogs stole it from GTA. But what's hilarious is I played Watch Dogs during college, the first one, and there was a guy that was in my class that had never played a GTA game, and he was telling me about like all this crazy shit. He's like, you could steal like fire trucks and shit in this game, and I was like, yeah. And he's like, why don't you guys like impressed? I'm like, have you ever played GTA?
Why aren't you impressed?
Well, he's like, why aren't you guys having fun? It's like almost like, because he's like having the time of his life, and I'm just sort of like, yeah, like whatever, And I'm like, have you ever played GTA? He's like, no. I'm like, well, that explains some shit. I'm like, you could been doing all this since fucking PlayStation 2.
But not even just GTA, even like Driver and stuff like that.
Hell
there's
yeah,
there's other games where you can just take over cars and drive whatever.
Yeah, Driver 2 on.
That's funny. Stalker 2, Heart of Chernobyl, looked awesome. Looked pretty great. I mean, they're developing this during an actual war, which is crazy too. I remember they
Really
released
crazy.
a video showing that like some of their devs were actually, signing up and going off to fight and stuff, and so their game got delayed and stuff. But yeah, they're still, I guess, they're still working on it and still coming out, and it looks awesome.
I
Matt,
really hope that Stalker 2 like is not like is easily accessible and does not really require you to play the other ones, because like I enjoyed playing the other ones, but fuck me, are they hard, and I really do not want to go back and like have to play them or like get
they're
the
hard by
story.
default, eh?
They're fucking hard. Well, Tim, like you've seen me play them on PC a
Yeah,
bunch.
yeah.
And I distinctly remember there's this one called Clear Sky where like there's literally just like a war kind of going on where roving sort of like factions will just kind of wander around, and you're on one side, the enemy, and there's another side, and maybe you can switch side. I can't remember anymore, but we were running around and there's these guys, and you can watch them on the map, and these two groups get like they come toward each other and they have this big fight, and so I was like, oh, like whatever, like they're warring, I don't need to deal with it. So I started walking, and all of a sudden they started screaming. And they all started shooting at something. I was like, what the fuck is that? And I turned my light, and you were there, Tim. I turned my light, and a fucking massive bear.
It was a bear, yeah.
Came running out of the fucking swamp, was like, but at me, and they're all screaming, and I'm like, oh fuck! And it just ripped me to shreds, and that was it. Like I have no other memory of Clear Sky other than that moment.
It was one
That's
of those
amazing.
games where I saw it and I was like, the themes of this are really awesome. The gameplay looks so annoying to try to play. Like I wouldn't have fun. It'd just be frustrating.
Well, there's that one where like I remember I was exploring and there was no buildings or anything. And then you get like, it's like alert, like all stalkers, there's a big like storm coming into like the northeastern district. Open my map, I'm like, oh fuck, I'm in the northeastern district. So I have to like run into a building, but the building that I found had anomalies. So you have to get like a bolt. You get like literally nuts and bolts, and you throw it to see if it like bounces off the anomalies.
Right.
Because they're sometimes really difficult to see. And like, man, I was just like, this is fucking whack. And then I had to rush inside because it was killing me. The storm was, and I was still trying to like slowly figure out the anomalies. I ended up running into an anomaly and got fucked in the ass. And I was like, all right, I'm done with this. Done with this game. Like, it's.
And then finally, I guess they kind of ended things announcing a new digital only Xbox Series X.
Hey.
Now, I think you mentioned this to me, Matt. This is the weird part. So their lineup is now this: Xbox Series X, Xbox Series S, and then a special edition Xbox Series X that has a new paint scheme on it. It's called Galaxy Black.
Which I believe is limited time, though, I think.
But now they don't sell the black, or do they still sell the original black Xbox Series X?
Yeah, I think they still do. At least I think they do.
But here's the weird part. So I get that the special edition comes with 2 terabytes of storage. But why doesn't their new all-digital Xbox Series X come with 2 terabytes?
Yeah, it does.
It just comes with 1 terabyte.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm looking at the Galaxy edition. Sorry.
No, that one makes sense. It's okay. It's a special edition, comes with 2 terabytes. But they come out with this brand new Series X that's only digital and still has 1 terabyte.
Well, this was the thing that I was kind of telling you. I remember now when I
Yeah,
was texting you is I was like, it all you did was change the paint job, and then you took away the hard drive or
yeah.
the CD drive. It's just like to me, if it's your top of the line console and you still support like disc, which you clearly do because your Galaxy Black one has a disc drive, then your top of the line model should have a disc drive. Like it's weird to say I want my console to be white but I can't have a disk drive in it. It's just like so the paint job is dictating the feature. Like it's bizarre.
So this says there's no disk drive and it costs $449. That's $50 cheaper than the regular X retail price. So they're probably trying to keep the cost down, right?
Mm,
If they put a 2 terabyte in there, they'd lose that $50, I guess, discount.
right.
But they're trying to lower the entry cost to get into the Xbox ecosystem, right?
I mean that Galaxy Black looks really cool from the pictures
Yeah,
anyway.
yeah. And the Series S did get a bump, apparently. Has a 1 terabyte drive now, up from 500 on
That's
the
right.
original launch S. So, I mean, there you go.
I will say this too is like I don't know if this is I assume there's other games that have this problem, but like we have a problem on PlayStation where we're playing like Fallout 76, and for some reason Fallout 76 requires like 200 gigs free every single time it does an update. Even if the update's 40 gigs, it's like you need another 200 gigs free, like every single time. And the Xbox just doesn't have those problems.
Yeah.
Like Xbox is very much like if it says I have 100 gigs and like this game's 100 gigs, like with maybe if it's like literally 100 to 100, it won't quite fit. But if one says 90 and one says 100, like you're good. Like you know what I mean? Like it's
Hmm.
you can install it, and it's just it manages the storage better.
Yeah. All right. And they had like a kind of a one more thing moment, and they announced Gears of War E-Day
Oh fuck yeah, with Mad World.
with Mad World. Yeah.
Mad World again. Yep.
You guys are the Gears fans, right? You guys are
Yeah.
both.
I've
big
always
Gears
been a
fans.
fan
What
of
do you guys
Gears.
think?
Yeah. I'm excited purely because like I think I'm part of the probably not the majority of Gears fans, but the chunk of Gears fans who actually cares about like the lore of the world.
Mm.
And I'm really keen to know about like the early days of Marcus and Dom and the rest of the squad.
I want to see specifically their civilization still functioning. Like
Mhm.
they have these like really grand architecture. Everything looks like super cool. You go into their government buildings here and there, and it's like these super grand courts and courtyards and things. And it's sort of like, man, this is all like past its prime. Would kind of like to see this thing, having just functioned because obviously E-Day is occurring in this, having
Yeah.
just functioned or is still functioning, and then obviously that city gets invaded or whatever.
It was weird seeing Marcus without his do-rag on.
But he put it on.
Yeah.
Don't you
When
worry.
it got knocked off, I'm like, who is
Yeah.
that guy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, isn't just a soul patch?
Yeah.
Who is this guy? It's a sentient soul patch.
I was happy to see them wearing sleeves as well, like they should be.
That's okay.
That's so like specific. Like
Well, one of the games they didn't have sleeves on, and they looked ridiculous.
Gears 3. They didn't
yeah,
have
Gears 3
sleeves.
doesn't have no sleeves.
Got to show off those muscles, man. These giant men.
The game should have been them trying to get their sleeves back.
I want it to be that they don't have sleeves, but the Locusts do. Locust stole their sleeves.
And that's why they're at war.
Yeah. It's
Sleeves.
not
Your
sleeves,
Groundwalker.
sleeves of war.
Sleeves.
So I think this a lot of people wanted this, eh? There's a lot of Gears fans out there.
There's a lot of Gears fans. It's an OG series, like 360 era. Like a lot of people who are playing games now, the 360 was probably like their first console, you know?
Yeah.
So like Gears holds a special place. Gears was the first game that I played on 360 because a friend of mine got it for like Christmas the year that 360 came out. And Gears was the first game that we put in. And I couldn't fathom that level of like gore was possible because I hadn't really played like Doom and
Oh.
stuff like that at that point. And we both like were like, oh, it's like a multiplayer shooter. Like, okay, so let's go into a little match. Like, we boot the game up. Let's do a little 1v1. And we both run to like the middle pillar of this map. We both pull out our shotguns. And I go to like walk around the pillar, and he just immediately blind fires and like jibs me in one shot. And I just that particular moment, we both were just like, it's just sticks in my head of us just being like, oh my God, like I can't believe that like that happens in video games now. Like the graphics are that good. And of course you look back at Gears 1 now and you go, holy man, this is hot garbage. But at the time, it was it was mind-blowing stuff. No
I
pun
wonder
intended.
what is the goriest game?
Oh no.
I'm sure there's something out there that has just gone. What's the one that's
Manhunt?
like Manhunt's pretty bad?
Oh, yeah.
Um, Postal 2 is a
Hmm.
pretty notorious game for being like really adult only content.
The Tomb Raider reboot.
Tomb Raider, oh, that's the goriest. I
Did
mean,
you see the horrible deaths in that one though?
I mean, yeah,
Some real
like,
nasty
but
deaths.
not super gore. Like, I mean,
No,
I just
no,
played
it
through
even
it, right?
goes
Like
black and white when you die.
the ones where she goes like she's like going down the river and then you smash
Yeah,
into like the trees and then she gets like impaled through the neck or whatever, but there's no
yeah,
blood. So it's
no,
just like a branch model through her character model and that's it.
yeah. It does hold on her like grasping at it though, which is kind of gross.
Oh
Yeah, it
God.
does. It does. Yeah. I think there's like all right, I know for a fact there's like a supercut out there of all the deaths, all the cinematic deaths
Oh yeah.
in that game. But
Well,
yeah,
it's we didn't bring up Mortal Kombat.
of course. The reason the ESRB even exists.
There's a particular death in that really kind of bothers me. Actually, it's probably any death where the person is looking at the horrible thing happening to them.
Mm,
Forgive me, I don't know the character names in Mortal Kombat, but there's some like lady, like creature lady who like I don't know eats people or whatever.
Melina, I think.
Yeah, and so like she knocks the other character down and just starts like eating their guts,
Oh,
and
and they're like
and
watching.
the character's watching and they're trying to back away and they pull their torso off themselves and
Oh,
like she's still just eating their guts and they're
oh
looking
man.
down at this happening to their body and
Yeah.
then they die and like that kind of stuff that bothers me.
That's I can't imagine why. I mean, it's pretty normal everyday stuff, but
Well, I can handle a lot of gory things, but
yeah.
like that, just them seeing it happen is what
Yeah.
kind of gets to me, you know?
Yep. Yep.
There is a scene in Quake 4 on the 360 where you get captured and machine like you basically get converted into the whatever alien race or whatever it is. But you're like so you get like big saws come down, cut your arms off, replaced with robotic arms while you're alive. And you're looking down, like you're kind of in like a hospital bed, and you're like looking down and you see it. And it's like several minutes from what I remember long. Your like legs
Mm.
get cut off, your guys like screaming and freaking out.
Mm.
Then it like rolls you to the next like sort of section of the assembly line. It puts legs on you and stuff. Like it's it's gruesome.
Oh, actually, in kind of in the same vein, in Kill Bill, when she's cutting up all the crazy 88s, there's a really quick shot where there's a guy holding his leg and like just screaming, but he's like holding his foot and just like ah!
Oh,
It's just
I mean,
horrible.
we don't have to linger on this forever, but like it just also reminds me of that scene in Saving Private Ryan on the beach
Oh yeah, yeah.
when the kid's like scooping his guts back into himself, and he's just like, "Mama, Mama!"
Yeah.
Oh God, it's so fucked up.
I sent you guys a picture on Zoom here.
Oh,
This is
Oh no!
this is not good.
I
This
don't
is
want to save it. I don't want
from
to
a
save
game
it.
called this is from a game called Harvester. It's a grim and grisly PC point and click from 1996, filled with
Oh my
over the top
God.
gore. In one poorly acted scene, which is in the picture, you come across a gang of
Poorly
naughty triplets
acted.
eating their mom alive.
That's
Surprisingly, mom is kind of okay with it.
horrible. What?
That's what it says. This is on GameSpot.
All right, well,
Fucking
like that.
gross.
that's pretty messed up. Yeah. All right, that was it for the Xbox showcase. A lot of people saying one of their best in years, if not their best ever, because like every single game was pretty much like a home run, and just overall, it felt like an awesome show.
It was pretty
And,
damn cool.
Xbox kind of needed this to get the juices flowing again, get people revved up on Xbox again.
This is what they were. This is what they were. Have been working on this whole time. When people
Yeah,
are like,
I
"Oh,
think so.
Xbox L," Xbox has nothing. They were just cooking it all up to come out at the same time.
And in the
Or all
spirit
the
of
announcements, I should
competition,
say.
it is Sony's move now. Sony's got to bring it now.
They did. They
Can't
brought
just be-
Astrobot.
They can't sit on their ass and just let Microsoft come back. So
Can't sit on their Astrobot.
if they're bringing back Gears, if Xbox is bringing back Gears, they should bring back
Jack and
Resistance.
Dexter. Oh
No, Resistance.
no,
Sony
no, God,
Sony
no.
Sony needs a shooter. Bring back Resistance. A modern day Resistance would be awesome.
They've
The
Call of
people
Duty.
want it. We're starting it now.
Man, I'm fucking down for some Resistance. Like hot damn.
Hashtag bring back Resistance. Hashtag Cornelius. Let's do it.
That's not Cornelius.
It's an inside joke.
I will say that if they do bring back a shooter, they'll probably bring back Killzone. And it better not be that dumb shit where it's a half ISA, half Hellgas City. Stupid. That game sucked. Like,
All
come
right.
on, guys.
Stupid.
Not too much to cover at Ubisoft's conference. A lot of games. I don't think they announced anything new. It was a lot of updates and just like
Anno,
kind of
though.
roadmap stuff. They did start it off with a big Star Wars Outlaws gameplay reveal trailer, and it looks freaking awesome. And I'm super excited for that game. People are kind of calling it GTA in space. The Empire acts like cops, and like if you start committing crimes and stuff, they'll come after you. And if you keep killing them and evading them, they'll send bigger and bigger, more difficult waves to fight and stuff. They'll eventually send death troopers after you.
Then they send Anakin Skywalker.
Well, he's Vader at this point.
Then send Vader Skywalker.
Vader Skywalker. Yeah, but I'm pretty hyped for this game now. I'm just worried about performance. The game looks so good. I'm just like, is it going to be kind of crappy performance on a console? I don't know. But Matt, you're excited for this. Surprisingly, you're not the biggest Star Wars fan, and yet this is kind of on your radar, right?
Yeah, like it just looks like a cool space game. Like it looks like, sorry, but it looks like what Starfield should have been. People were like really like down with how you land on planets in this game. And I don't know whether it was just a dusty planet or whatever. Like, I'm not the biggest Star Wars guy, but when you're landing, you were in dust for a really long time. And very clearly that's masking a load.
Yes. Yeah.
Which I understand is a reality, but it still didn't look that good. Like,
but they're also messing with physics as well here, because you're traveling way too fast to get to a planet surface in that short amount of time.
sure.
When they come out of the hyperspace and you can see the entire planet in the distance, and they just hit their thrusters, and all of a sudden they're flying through the atmosphere. That planet would have been rushing at them at incredible speeds for them to have done that.
Well, to be fair, this isn't exactly a space sim.
They're messing with something. No,
Yeah, this isn't a space sim at all. Like, not even close.
but the difference is though that they can imitate landing on a planet, whereas Starfield has you load and you see a load screen before you get to the planet.
Well, you see a load screen when getting out of the ship too.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know if you can. Can you just walk onto the ship? Did they just walk onto the ship?
No, you. Oh,
no. In Outlaws, yeah. I don't remember what we saw.
In Outlaws, I think you can.
I don't.
Hang on a second. Yeah. I just remembered something. When they showed off Starfield, they showed you walking off your ship, didn't they?
Maybe just that boarding ramp.
But you didn't go through a door, ramp. Right?
No, but there's like that little vestibule before the airlock, right?
Yeah, but wasn't it a really large vestibule in this particular case? At the very least, I thought I went into the ship. Man,
you'll have to look it up.
Fucking Todd, eh? Christ.
But yeah, that was the biggest thing other than showing off Assassin's Creed again. But Matt, I don't know if you wanted to touch on Anno really quick.
Yeah, I mean, Anno is back. You're going back to ancient Rome, which is cool as fuck. The earliest you've ever been, I think, is 1503, with literally in the game. No, 1404, which is literally in the game 1404 AD or Dawn of Discovery, depending on the region it was released in. I mean, I'm down. Like, I loved Anno 1800. I thought it was really, really good. And I have like a bunch of expansions and stuff like that. So, I mean, I'm down to try like an ancient. Was it an ancient alien? Almost said it twice too. Christ.
I was gonna say it if you didn't.
I'm down to try some ancient Rome Anno game. It looks freaking awesome.
All right, that was it for the kind of mini E3 this last weekend, because you had the Summer Game Fest the week before. Was it a week before?
I think so.
Last Friday, because we covered it, right?
Oh, that's right. Yeah, it was just before we recorded.
Yeah. So not a week before these showcases. These were like Sunday and Monday and whatnot. You had the EA BioWare Dragon Age thing showed off, so it felt like a little E3, little E3 again, which was kind of making me happy. All right, let's move on to what we're playing. Tim, what have you been playing this week?
So since I was off, I've actually done kind of a lot. I started. I had mentioned how I finished the first Tomb Raider remake and I started Rise of the Tomb Raider. And then I sort of had to shelve Tomb Raider for a bit because Paper Mario, the Thousand Year Door remake came out. And that's like in my top 3 games of all time, I would say.
Wow.
The original on the GameCube. So I snatched it up and I did a full playthrough of that on stream. Really, really good. I really enjoy what Nintendo has been doing recently with their remakes, where they, especially the RPGs, where they're very faithful to the original, but they add just like a couple of things here and there that don't take away from the core, like original game that you'd remember, but they just added that little bit extra. And in this game, in terms of like, I think they added a couple of new recipes, a couple new items, a couple of badges here and there. But for the most part, the game itself is very like the functionality is basically one to one. Um, and just getting to see those characters in like actual HD is always nice. Because that's a lot of what we're getting for Nintendo these days is like they're remaking games that aren't, in the 1080p era yet. Just kind of nice. It's kind of refreshing to like see games being remastered that kind of like it's actually a remaster, not just like gameplay, quality of life stuff, but also visually. Because, then we get games that came out on the PS4 and then we're getting an air quotes remastered version for the PS5. It's like
Yeah.
visually it's the same game. So it's but it was just such a treat to play it again. And like I have the original on GameCube. I could just, boot it up and play it at any time. But it is nice because, the portability of the Switch. And I would say there's enough there to like warrant multiple playthroughs back to back if you want to, because like there's not a ton of like differentiation with the badges and the different sort of like builds per se you could do throughout the game, because your skills that you get are based on the badges you equip. But it's one of those games where there's a character that lets you kind of swap your stats around at any time. And so like if you want, when you find that character, you can make your health lower than it is at the start of the game, which is really kind of strange. But in doing that, there's also a lot of badges that say like, oh, you get this, but only when you're at less than like 5 health. But if you do that stat swap thing so that you lower your health, which starts at 10, you lower it to maximum of 5, now suddenly all these badges are permanently active. So there's a lot of badges that are like that boost your overall power when you're at 5 health or less. So if you're just always at that, you always have this attack boost and you can just completely wipe fights like really fast. So there's like these little different like kind of play styles that you can do. And yeah, it's a fun little story. There's good characters in it too. The companions are all fun. And there's a couple of secret bosses that they added that are not in the GameCube version. So I actually went through in my own time and found those. And I'm pretty close to what the game considers in its own records to be a 100% completion, which is to get a record of every enemy you fought, which you have to use a particular companion's ability in combat on that enemy to get it. So I have that log all completed, 134 out of 134. I have one of every badge, so that's all. I think there's like 86 badges or something in the game. And so the last thing that I have to do is recipes, which is just a straight up grind, because there's a cook you can find in the game where you can cook items on their own, or you can cook some items with other items and it makes different recipes. And then there's even some recipes that are take this completed recipe and this other completed recipe and cook them together, and then you get another recipe out of it. So it's just a matter of making every recipe once, and then it's all you filling out your recipe log. So that's a very long grind, and I'm probably only going to do like 2 recipes a day. It's going to take me a while to finish that off, but yeah, then I'll be pretty much done with that. And there's apparently a secret, kind of like congratulations, good job, you win 100% of the game, badge that you get when you've done that, and it's basically just like a brag kind of thing. But yeah, it's just one of those games where you set your own satisfaction with it. You can just do the story and you're done. You can play the game on like easy mode by just equipping all the best badges, and then there you go, you're good to go. Or you can try to do a playthrough where you like fight nothing and you have no experience and you're super under leveled, but you still try to like take on the bosses. That's what's kind of nice about RPGs, where you are in control of the fights that you get into, and that has levels, is that you can just choose to do kind of any part of the game at any level you want and kind of set your own difficulty. But so that was the majority of the last couple of weeks. But just on Tuesday this week, I started doing my we had a sub goal on my stream, and the that was for unlocking a Dark Souls randomizer, which I've never done. And there's a couple of randomizer mods you can get out there, and one of them is for item randomizer, which is pretty standard if you play any game that has a randomizer mod, where kind of all the gear, all the equipment, all the items, consumables, shop inventories, whatever, just all gets shuffled. Everything gets shuffled. Everything's in different spots, and so you can play a game where you might know it front to back. You might know it where every item is and where every upgrade material is, and you can just sort of like blaze a path through the game the same way every time. But when you suddenly shuffle all the items, you don't know where anything is anymore. Now the game sort of becomes very different, very interesting, right? So the actual software that you run to generate the random seed for the game, you can do it uh, with logic basically, or without logic, and you can choose like the difficulty as well. So what that basically means is like if you make it easy difficulty, it just makes it possible that anything can kind of be anywhere. Like you can go to the first area in the game and you could just get like one of the best weapons. It's just sitting there on the ground in like a loot where you might have just gotten like a pair of binoculars otherwise. Um, and then it'll give you lots of like upgrade items early on that just give you a crap ton of souls that you can use to level up and get your stats high enough to then use this like end game weapon really early. I got a weapon fairly early on that is really strong, but it comes at the cost of like killing one of the blacksmiths. And the blacksmiths in Dark Souls are like they are your means of your strongest and most immediate like power spiking. Is if you have the materials to upgrade the weapon you're using, you're going to be a whole lot stronger than if you have a bunch of souls and you like level up your strength, 5 times. You get way more damage out of upgrading the weapon. So if you kill the blacksmith, you can get a really good weapon, but then obviously the blacksmith isn't around for the rest of that playthrough. So I got it just as a drop on the ground, and it then after that made a lot of fights really, really easy. And that was kind of going back to areas that I didn't have unlocked because I didn't get the key to go into this early area until it was much later in the game. So then I could go back to it and just completely like wipe these early areas. But it's also sort of a way of like testing your knowledge with the game because I've played through Dark Souls like so many times, at least a dozen, maybe 2 dozen times through Dark Souls 1. And you sort of get used to like a particular playstyle, a particular pattern of like, okay, go here, do this, get this item, get these upgrades, upgrades to this level, go fight this boss. But because I would like go into an area and I would get a bunch of items and I wouldn't necessarily like get what I thought I was going to get out of that area, I go, okay, there might be a key here that I need for like an area way later down the game. Where are all the item drops in this area? Because there's lots of stuff that I know if I go over here to this corner and there's like there's like a body up against a tree and that body has an item on it, but it's just like a soul consumable that you use. You get a couple of souls and you can continue on. So I was like, oh, I'll just skip that because there's no reason for me to go all the way over there, fight like 3 enemies that might kill me or use my healing items up just to get this consumable item. I may as well just like move on. So it's been sort of like a brain refresher of like trying to remember where all the drops are in every zone because kind of like a first playthrough of Elden Ring, you look at a cave and you go, I should probably explore that because there might be something good in there for me. And that's what this playthrough of Dark Souls has been like, is I'll look off in the distance and I'll see like an item drop somewhere and I'll be like, I should probably go see what that is just in case it's something I really need. So for Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday this week, I played that. I'm pretty well at the end of the game now. I just kind of need to get the main boss, like end of the game, Lord Souls, to then go back to the Lord Vessel, put them all in, and unlock the last place to go just basically on the gauntlet to the last boss. What's nice is that when you generate the seed for the randomization of like the loot pool in the game, it also generates a text document that's basically like a cheat sheet, so you can see exactly where every item is. If you think you've gone everywhere, you've explored absolutely everything, but you cannot for the life of you find this ring that you need to wear to go do this boss fight, otherwise you can't do it, and you're just like, I genuinely have no idea where this is. You can go to the cheat sheet, you can search for that item, and then you can be like, okay, it's here, and it says specifically that this drop in this area. Um, but if you want to go a little bit more vague with it too, there's a cheat sheet, but there's also a hint sheet. So you can say like, I need this item. It'll say it's in this zone, and you go, okay. So that sort of narrows the search down. Um, so there's that mod, and then there's another one that's a that I don't have, that I haven't played. I kind of want to do it in my own time, but it's an enemy randomizer. So instead of fighting the same enemies in the same areas that you would always fight them, it shuffles every enemy type. So you could be going through the first area of the game and you're used to fighting like just the regular hollow soldiers, and it could be all of the DLC like sorcerer characters that are tossing, you know, dark magic at you constantly that'll absolutely one shot you at like level 10. And it'll swap things here and there. And I think there's a setting in that mod that you can also include bosses to be swapped with everything else. So you could just be running down, you know, an alleyway where there's normally just some like assassin characters, and then, you know, Sif, the great gray wolf, is just wandering through these alleys too. And it's like, you're not supposed to be here. This is be a very hard fight to have in a non-boss arena. So it's just basically for, you know, chaos and stuff. But yeah, I don't have that one. I want to try doing that one too. But the item randomizer has been really fun. And I have to say, if you really like Dark Souls, it's really not hard to set up. It's very fun. It really kind of tests your confidence with the game, how much you remember from it, and you can customize how hard you want it to be too. You can set it to be easy, where it'll just give you anything anywhere, or you can also set it to be like medium or hard, where it hides when it generates the seed. It hides the better stuff either in like secret areas or harder to access areas, or way late into the game, so you don't get too overpowered. But it does like shuffle things. So I definitely want to do one of those playthroughs too. See where one that's like where the only weapon I have is like a crappy like dagger, and that's just what I have to use for like the majority of the game and just make it work.
Is it possible to get locked out? Like, is it possible to get stuck to the point where it's like, I can't get this key. I can't get the key because it's further on in the game because it randomized it, and I literally cannot advance.
I don't think so. I think that's the logic that it runs, is it doesn't let you soft lock.
Okay.
But I can't remember if there was a setting to turn that off, because like if you're a speedrunner, for example, there are certain like glitches and stuff that you can do to like get through areas, or like skip sequence break the game and stuff. So it's like technically you can still get there if you truly want to be like as random as possible.
Right.
But I think even then, when there's a place that only has one way in, like there's a pretty well-known area in the first game called the Painted World of Ariamis, where you have to have an item in your inventory when you interact with this painting to go into the world. That's the only way to get in there. And it won't put that item in that world. Or like if there's a place where it's like a sewer that you need a key to go through a door, it's not going to put the key to that door in the sewer because there's no other way to get in there.
Okay. Because that would be so. I mean, like Dark Souls has a lot of stuff, but like the first thing I thought of was like, if they did the same thing in Elden Ring, it would be like there'd be so many ways to soft lock. At least I think anyway.
Yes and no. Like you can get to the Altus Plateau really easily from the very beginning of the game fighting no bosses. Like you can do it. All you have to do is run to the forts to get the pieces of the medallion and then go to the elevator. That's it. You don't have to fight any bosses. You can do it. So you can get like 75% of the way through that game without fighting anything.
Right, okay.
Technically, right? There's multiple ways to do different stuff. And there's those secret portals that'll take you from area to area. And then there are people who figure out tricks, right? Like there's that other way to get into Altus early, where in the early parts of Limgrave, you can find a tower with a chest at the top that's like a prank chest. You open it up, the smoke comes out. It's like you've been teleported. And then it takes you to like up on top of the wall of the city around Altus Plateau, where there's an elevator there. And normally you can't access that elevator until like you're at the end of the game pretty much. But people figured out a trick of like, if you're falling, if you take your physic and you have the crack tier that makes you like explode when you after like a couple seconds after you drink it, if you drink it and step off the edge, fall down, do an attack midair right before the explosion goes off, you get like knockback in midair, which resets the fall, which resets your fall damage, and then you just land down at the bottom there, and now you're in Altus Plateau at like the very beginning of the game,
Man,
without having to get any of the medallion pieces. And like that's really hard to pull off. Like it's not a frame perfect trick, but it's really precise timing. But there are randomizers for games where like they're sort of designed with speedrunners in mind. Like Ocarina of Time is a really big one that has a randomizer mod where you can do it using the phrase I used before with logic or without logic. And with logic means it's not going to soft lock you. Like you can only ever get you always have access to the items that you need to access other areas. Like nothing is going to be locked behind going like you need, for example, you need the hook shot to get into the water temple, so the hook shot's not going to be in the water temple,
Right. Okay.
kind of thing, or somewhere else that you similarly can't get into because you need an item to get to it. And without logic is everything is truly randomized. Use whatever kit you have at your disposal to try to figure out how to get there. So in that situation, the hook shot could be in the water temple, but people have figured out ways to clip through walls, to float through the air, to like wrong warp, to you go in one door that normally takes you inside a building, but then you end up at the bottom of the Deku tree. Like there's tons and tons and tons and tons of glitches. And that's an example where like a normal player, yeah, this would be impossible. But somebody who knows how to speedrun and do all these like glitches and tricks, it's possible for them.
Matt, what have you been playing?
What? Me?
Yeah, and hurry it up. We're running out of time here.
What?
It's 11:30.
You calling me and then you tell me to hurry up. Jesus Christ. Well, I've mostly actually been doing multiplayer games. Had just one more session of Diablo 4 of all things. Just trying the end game. I have a friend that's just running me to the end. Like we're not doing the story or anything. I'm already like pretty sure I'm through the story now. We're just sort of like trying the end game stuff. I didn't really like it in D3, so I'm gonna see if I like it in D4. Just following a build guide, building out a character, getting some gear, that sort of thing. So that's been kind of cool. My build is starting to work. But I definitely see myself falling into the same sort of trap of like, okay, I built this character and I'm going to go kill creatures to get better gear to make this character better so I can get more gear for this character more efficiently. So why am I doing this? Is a little bit, but whatever. Like I'm giving it a try. I'm going to hit the end of the end game stuff, see how it goes type thing. That's kind of my goal. So there's that. I'm trying to get back to RoboCop. I haven't gotten a chance because I want to get finished it. I'm in the last, I think 20% or so, like last like 2 or 3 like large missions. So I want to get through that. And I've been doing that game pretty completionist wise. I'm doing that. So like I'm trying to get back to that. Other than that, I did a little bit of Apex, got a couple wins, and then back to the Fortnite. So I'm doing the Fortnite, trying to get to the end of that season. I'm almost level 20. Not playing it super religiously, not doing every single quest so far. Like there's still some weeklies left and stuff. But I'm having a hell of a time getting a win because the new Mad Max season is just fucking chaos. And like I'm just not as good at the chaos as everybody else, or maybe it's just like luck of the draw. And I have
It's
to
not
like
a
play a
new
bunch
Mad
of
Max
matches.
season. It's like Mad Max.
Well, okay, sure. It's the Wasteland season. There's some Fallout stuff. There's like some Mad Max stuff, but the game is like all vehicular combat.
There's no
now.
Mad Max stuff.
Wait, well, okay, Mad Max adjacent stuff, inspired stuff.
Yeah.
There's war bosses, effectively, things like that. So yeah, not Mad Max licensed, I suppose.
Yeah, yeah.
But there is Fallout licensed stuff, which is cool. So that's why I'm trying to get through. Because I want to at least try to get to level like 100-ish normally, because there's a really cool Fallout skin in the bonus like things that like I may have to spend some V-Bucks to get to, and you can only spend so many V-Bucks on levels. So I'm hoping to like get as close to the end as I can, and then I could, because I have a bunch of V-Bucks and I could spend my V-Bucks to get that one skin. But other than that, I think that's been my week. We did some Halo, the first one. We're on mission.
Oh yeah.
6 of 10, I think. So we're getting there. Certainly getting there. And that one mission was fucking long. Holy Christ.
Or at least we think it was. We don't really know when it ended.
Yeah, that was really unclear. There was a mission where it wasn't very clear that it ended, and then Aaron was watching the stream and was like, yeah, like you're on a different mission now. It's like we're doing the same, like what's going on here? Like it just was not very clear at all.
The name of the mission was kind of weird too. It's just like storm the security room or something like
that. yeah. Storm the control room or something.
Yeah, the control room. Yeah.
And I'm like, wait, is that my objective or is that my mission?
Mm-hmm.
What's the difference?
The objectives are in the mission.
Yeah.
The mission is the overall goal, but you have many objectives in the mission. As for myself, not too much. Been playing 76, the new season. I have yet to check out the new area because Marty tried downloading it, and it broke. He doesn't own the game anymore. We don't know what happened.
What?
Yeah, something
It's
happened to
just
his like
complicated.
license.
He had the game on disc, but then he might have redeemed it through the PlayStation Plus
Oh,
system.
okay.
But then when he deleted the game, it doesn't think he has the game anymore. So I don't know what's going on there. And then Matt hasn't been playing it. He hasn't been able to download it because he needs a billion gigs of space free. And
Which is
other than
lunacy.
that,
Is it good, Ryan?
I don't know. I haven't really done it yet. I've been
Is
waiting
it
for you guys to go to that new area.
man? But the thing that's stupid is I can't be like my build is bloodied and I can't be a ghoul.
You want to
I
be cool?
actually read an article about that where they were excited to see what builds people come up with because ghouls can't do bloodied.
Yeah,
But
and
do you want to be a ghoul?
I wouldn't mind trying it. I think it's going to be easy to flip back and forth. So
Okay. Yep. Yeah. Other than that, not too much. I've been playing Star Wars Hunters on my phone and iPad a lot. That's what I've kind of been doing, which is kind of like a little mini arena shooter game. Some people are really good at it. Some people are just horrible. Most people are horrible at it. So it's fun to go in
Aw.
there and win a bunch of matches. Because I'm probably playing against a bunch of kids. I imagine it's very like a kid oriented game. Yeah. So that's been fun.
I was gonna say it was
But
like
that's
playing Call of Duty Mobile on the phone, like when
Oh,
you're doing your
man.
placement matches and you're not using a controller.
Don't try Warzone though.
So easy.
People are good in Call of Duty Warzone mobile. They're tough there. All right. Thanks for listening, Tim. Where can they find you?
Twitch.tv/the sidetrack, where we are pretty well almost done the Dark Souls randomizer, and then we will eventually finally be making our way back to Rise of the Tomb Raider, and then eventually Shadow of the Tomb Raider too, because I've never played those and I've always been meaning to get around to them. So
Yeah. All right. We'll see you guys next time.
Peace.